This is the Patriots pregame show, fueled by Duncan.
He's throwing it toward Thornton, right corner of the end zone, caught! Touchdown New England!
The Patriots pregame show is your source for all the news and information before every game.
He took it to the house! Again!
Here we
and
go!
The Patriots take the lead!
With Matt Smith, Mike Dussault, Paul Perillo, and Tamara Brown.
And the Patriots have won their 6th Super Bowl title.
Patriots Nation, welcome to the Patriots pregame show, fueled by Duncan.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Inside Gillette Stadium for Patriots pregame, fueled by Duncan. Matt Smith, to my right, Mike Dussault, to my left, Paul Perillo. Tamara Brown will join us lately. Good week 2 morning to you, Michael.
Good morning to you, Matt.
Paul, same to you.
Beautiful day for football, Matt.
That's what I've heard.
Home opener. I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, but evidently it's beautiful out there.
Not
sky.
football weather.
It
No.
is. Well, is it not? Not
no, I think
football?
it's got to be in there's a certain range. It's a little too hot, I think. Today.
Yes,
Is
it's
this
not
in the
crisp.
couple,
It's gotta be
several,
like, yeah, it's got to be
a
crisper.
few
Yeah.
range?
Needs to be crisper.
Handful.
Needs to be
Handful.
crisper.
Half dozen.
Well,
Several.
week 2, the New England Patriots 1-0 are hosting the Seattle Seahawks 1-0. The members of the Super Bowl 49 team will be honored at halftime. I saw Malcolm Butler last night. I believe Malcolm Butler will be featured in pregame festivities
I
today.
believe it's the keeper of the light.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Did I do that right?
You did.
That's the
Ring my bell.
Some shocking looking people that you'd go, that's Dan Connolly?
He actually looks like he
he's
could.
almost unrecognizable.
He looks like he actually could return a kickoff at this point.
Much different looking than the guy who did return the kickoff. So that'll be a nice thing for fans to see today. But we're talking football here as the Patriots begin their home opener hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Mike set the table for us off of their
Sure.
Week 1 win. What are you looking forward to seeing today?
I'm looking to see if they can, how much of that game they can carry over in terms of it being clean and, not self-inflicted wounds. I mean, no turnovers. Probably hard to expect that to happen again, at least not every week. But keeping those mistakes down, if they're able to do that, if they're able to get off to a good start, I think they'll give themselves a chance today. But I just think what can happen is a cavalcade of mistakes all of a sudden, or false start, all that stuff that we saw a little bit too much of in the preseason and summer. They got to keep that stuff clamped down.
I agree with Mike. I think that's the key. And I think most of the stuff that Mike just mentioned is preventable. You can control, the pre-snap stuff, and I think that they need to stay out of their own way, the way they did in Week 1. If they can continue to do that, they will give themselves a chance.
Much has been made of the fact where they said, we want to run the ball. Cincinnati knew they wanted to run the ball. They ran the ball. Can they get away with doing that again and showing their intentions early, committing to it? And is there a chance for repeated success?
If I'm the Seahawks and Mike McDonald, I'm going to say no. That's what I'm going to take away. I'm going to take away Ramondre Stevenson. I'm going to say beat us. I want to see you beat us with the pass, at least in the first half. I would come out, heavy focus on Ramondre Stevenson, heavy focus on stacking the box, and let's let our cornerbacks that they have a pretty good defensive secondary here. Let those guys hold up, and let's see if we can just make them in yardage, third and longs, those kind of situations. I don't think the Patriots have proven that they can consistently handle those yet. I mean, it's early in the season. Every team's got to prove it. They haven't had to yet. If I'm Seattle, I'm going to make them prove it.
How do you combat that, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots are going to run the ball. I don't think they have a lot of things to do at their disposal other than that. So if Seattle is able to, put the ball strictly in Jacoby Brissett's hands and do it that way, I think Seattle's going to have an edge. I don't anticipate that. I think that Seattle's banged up already, where you need to be strongest to stop the run, the linebackers. Nuwasu is definitely out. Terrell Dotson missed practice time. I think their top 3 linebackers are all dealing significantly less than 100%. I think this is an opportunity for the Patriots to play the way they want to again, the way they did last week.
Mike, let's get Patriots fans up to date on maybe the biggest news item of the week. And I think people were surprised to see what happened when Chooks left the team.
The not so well-known exempt left squad list. Sudden movement there yesterday for him. So according to reports, he's trying to figure out if he wants to still play, I guess. So I don't think this is unheard of. You guys probably have a little bit more experience than me. I mean, it's certainly rare, but at the same time, guys, I think usually it happens at the end of camp. I forget someone telling me sometimes the first week of training camp, you get some of these offensive linemen who they get out there and they realize, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I wish I could say that look, it's a blow in terms of depth, but I just think he's been one of their most consistent mistake guys. Going into the summer, we all know what happened in that preseason game when I think he took three false start or illegal formation penalties. He was also even in practice one of the guys that was often like, man, he's one of the false start guys, responsible for mistakes. So I don't want to pile on the guy. I mean, clearly I'm not sure his head is in it, but I think some of the signs were there through the summer that he wasn't quite fully engaged.
I agree. And we did see this list last season with Matt Corral. They had used the same thing, the exempt left squad list. I don't know if this has anything to do with Chooks, in terms of like mental health or anything, but, just strictly from what Mike is talking about, what we've seen on the field, he seemed a little indifferent to me. You talked about the false starts, Mike. When you see a guy, commit a false start penalty and it's like, immediately banging the helmet or like at least trying to make it look like, oh, I didn't really move, It was just sort of a resignation about it. We talked a lot about after the Washington preseason game with the alignment penalties, and I put Chooks in this category. I put Owenu in the category too. Like it was almost like an indignant nature to their response. Yeah. They called him, but I wasn't really off. I wasn't really lined up incorrectly. I don't know if this is something that he's upset about his playing time or being moved around as much as he has. He's been left tackle, he's been right tackle, he's been the swing tackle. Maybe he's frustrated. Maybe this is something, like I said, and you don't want to speculate, but maybe something not football related, just something that he's dealing with. And but I overall, I agree. I think that Vidarian Lowe's played better than he has. I think that they probably feel better about the 5. That's the 5 that they used for the majority of camp. They switched Owenu out to the outside and Velocity but Vidarian Lowe and Chooks were among the 5. And then Chooks lost his job. So I think this is what you're going to be left with.
I would say too, just can I jump in real quick, Matt? Vidarian Lowe, you talk about guys that don't care. Just from being in the locker room this week, Vidarian Lowe definitely a guy that cares.
No
I mean,
question.
and we can get on performance stuff, and that's fair criticism. But in terms of just a guy who holds himself to a really high standard, who's really self-critical, those things, he's all over himself as much as some of the pundits are all over him. So I just say he's the kind of guy easy to root for. Hoping here he's fully healthy. Came off the injury report yesterday with the oblique injury, so hopefully fully ready to go. Maybe we see some strides out of Vidarian Lowe today because Boye Mafe is coming. They're going to probably target Vidarian Lowe.
Don't you see that that attitude that Vidarian has? His teammates see that.
Yeah.
The coaching staff sees that. It's easy to see why they want him to succeed because of these other attributes.
Sure, and I mean, I think it's with the core four, I think it's a little of the Trent Brown vibes, where you want guys like, even if they're not super talented, but that they really care, they're engaged, they're bringing really good energy in. It might mean more opportunities for Caden Wallace today as well, but I would say the tackle depth is pretty thin. Not really equipped to handle many injuries there. I mean, DeMontre Jacobs, was one of the guys they signed there at the beginning or at the end of cuts. Maybe he has to get thrust into the mix, so we'll see how it all plays out.
Paul, you said we don't want to speculate, and I couldn't agree with you more, but was there an inkling of this, or is there any hints, or is that the Twitterverse speaking, that some of this might have been going on in Pittsburgh?
I hadn't heard anything about his situation in Pittsburgh other than he lost his job. I didn't know if it had anything to do with him leaving the team or anything like that.
And might not have been happy about, again, maybe I should be playing. Why am I not playing? And maybe that was part of the decision.
Yeah, I think any of these things, and this is what happens when you get some like vagaries, with a situation like this. And Mike is right. Like, we don't have a lot of experience with exempt left squad. In the situations in training camp when and this goes back 20 years, when offensive linemen seem to retire during camp, well, it was retirement. Right. Like the guys just decided, I'm entering year 12. I just don't have it in me. I'm going. And I could rattle off some veteran names that people would have long since forgot, like Joe Panos.
Panos.
And guys like that. They just, they got to camp. They got ready to report, and they just decided, I'm not going to do this. This doesn't seem like that to me. This seems a different situation.
You're watching and listening to the Patriots pregame show fueled by Duncan, and we are welcomed now by Tamara Brown, fresh off the playing field at Gillette Stadium, with an update as warm-ups are going on as we speak. Tamara, what did you learn by watching outside?
So no one is out there warming up with the athletic training staff right now. I don't know if that's a good sign or not, or whether they're just a little bit delayed. But after we do keys to the game, I'm going to go back out there and see if anything has changed.
So, Matt, why don't we fire up the keys to the game?
You've waited all week for it.
The whole team's in the locker room right now just listening to this, waiting to hear what you're going to say.
Here are the Patriots pregame socials, keys to the game.
Okay, does that mean because it's on the list first, Paul, that I go first?
You are the
You can choose.
Lead-off position.
you are the head honcho.
Okay, so I will lead off. I'm very interested that both of you said you think that in order for the Patriots to win today, that they need to lean on the running game. And you're probably right. But my key to this game was saying open things up a bit. I'm not looking for Air Coryell and Chuck and Duck or anything like that. I just don't know how much of a living you're going to make by running it as much as they ran last week when they know that you're going to run it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Cincinnati didn't know that. Seattle knows that. You said, Mike, McDonald's got to sit there and say, we got to take Stevenson out of the game. I see 2 tight ends, play action, screen game, stuff that we didn't see against Cincinnati. I'm not suggesting that it's Demario Douglas time and he's going to get 12 targets. They've got to do something to be a little bit more efficient offensively, a little bit more creative maybe offensively. I'm not saying they weren't creative, but they've got to keep Seattle guessing and a little bit on their toes.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Hooper said this week, we basically just ran our vanilla stuff against Cincinnati. This was just the basic stuff. I think your point about screens is an excellent one. We heard from the team this summer. They want to be a big screen game. It was not a part, really, of the game plan last week. I think that's a good way to try to offset, an attacking, aggressive defense like Seattle is. And, to Paul's point, where you do have some linebackers banged up, what do you feel like you need to do to stop the run? Because, you might have to dedicate additional resources, putting an extra safety in the box. You've got some backups in there. So I do think it's something for the Patriots maybe strategically to try to take advantage of.
I do wonder if offensively, if any other guys spoke up the way Ramondre Stevenson spoke up and said, hey, I don't want to run outside zone. I want to run downhill. So I'm wondering if maybe the wide receivers will step up this week and give their opinions on what could help the offense get going with opening things up a little bit.
Well, I said let's open things up a little bit. Tamara, it looks like you disagreed to a certain extent with your key to the game.
So, yes, I want them to take it to the hill. I think that both teams are going to want to lean on running the football, which means this could be a dogfight. That's won in the trenches. So in the fourth quarter, if this thing is close, they're going to have to take it to the hill. They're going to have to remember those treacherous, hard days from summer and training camp and push through and get this win, whether it's Ramondre putting the team on his back. He said he wasn't tired at the end of that game last week in week 1. I'm expecting he'll come out today and have that same mentality and want to keep running downhill. Whether it's him, whether it's Hasty, whether it's Kevin Harris, whoever it is out there today, I'm hoping that they can continue to fight through the entire fourth quarter and come away with a victory.
Yeah, to Gibson too. Gibson's off the injury report now, and he was, I think, pretty good this summer. So maybe a 1-2 punch with those two guys today. Gibson might be the guy though that you try to get going in the screen 100%. Game a little bit. He's more of a receiver, so maybe he's somebody they take advantage of.
So when you're mentioning conditioning and going to the hill, this might be an old saw, but the old West Coast team, 3,000 miles, 1 o'clock game, does that play into anything as far as conditioning and who's the better conditioned team?
I'm a morning person, so to me, I'd be like, "That's great. We get to play the game at 10 a.m. Like, let's go."
I will say one thing from being out on the field earlier: it's warm. There's no breeze out there on the field. It feels like we're at training camp, and so I think take it to the hill is even more, exact to what I'm talking about because it feels just like training camp out there right now. There's no breeze. The sun is blazing, and the game hasn't even started yet. So it's probably going to be even hotter come 1 o'clock.
There's your thing, man. That's like, it's the Seattle. There's no Seattle clouds.
Yeah.
It's, the sun is out. Maybe the weather is the bigger
and
impact.
so
they're not familiar.
They don't know. What is this thing in the sky?
Right.
So
it's a star.
Yeah. So I think, I think this is going to be a dogfight. I don't know if it's going to come down to Joey Sly having to be perfect again with his field goals.
You got to work him in there.
I have to work it in there. He's included.
If they give him 3 extra points, I'm pretty convinced he'll make them all.
So I'm saying
Joey Sly thing.
Everybody has to take it to the hill and remember those hard days, whether it's the team crowding around them, screaming and yelling and having to kick a field goal, or whether it's, hey, we need to get a first down late in this game to keep the clock running and keep the Seahawks from getting the ball. So take it to the hill. And I hope Hasty is active today because in case Ramondre can't go, I'm hoping that Hasty is available to help him out.
Very good. Batting third, the left fielder, Dussault.
Oh,
Mike
right.
Dussault.
I'm in left field. That's usually where you stick your crappy players.
No, Jim Rice played in left field. He
Your
always
worst
hit third.
outfielder.
Come on.
Your worst outfielder plays left.
No.
That's fact.
That's my guy. So mine, look, I went a little generic. I mean, start fast, finish clutch. I think that could be the key any week. And I mean, but to me, that's what this Patriots team just needs to do right now until proven otherwise. I'm not going to ask them to play a perfect, clean game like they did last week. I mean, I think they're going to have some problems today, just turnovers. I just think it happens. This is a good defense, and it's part of the game. I hope that they can have some big plays to offset those turnovers. They're going to have to. I mean, if you're turning the ball over, you're not going to be able to get by on just running the ball and maybe converting a couple third downs. So if they can if they can start fast, get a lead, play from a position of strength. We talked about it all week. It was such a key to last week's game, letting them stick within their offense and kind of dictating the terms. And then even doing that, I think it's going to come down to the end, finish clutch, whether that's sly, whether that's, again, the defense needing a stop, the offense needing to close it out, or even, perhaps having to pick up some points right at the end. So start fast, finish clutch. It's always a good formula for football, but especially for this team today, I think that's got to happen for them to be able to play their game and win it their way.
I like that, Mike, because I think that finishing can be hard, especially for this team, especially if points are needed. You've seen this team struggle to put together a drive and get down the field to put points on the board, or simply get a drive going to keep the ball out of Seattle's hands. Like, you want them to be able to keep running the clock out and force Seattle to take those timeouts. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Finishing.
I think Gerard has said this. It'll be interesting to see what this team does when they face adversity. I don't know how much adversity they faced in Cincinnati last week. I think there was a time, late second quarter, early third quarter maybe, where it looked like the Bengals were winning the line of scrimmage, but it wasn't. They didn't really get punched in the mouth. No. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this young team when they do inevitably get punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point. They never trailed. They were always playing the game on their terms.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right. No one's good enough to do that, for 17 straight games.
All right, Mr. Cleanup Hitter, what do you got?
To me, we could talk about the running games, and I think both teams will want to run the ball. And I like your wrinkles, Matt, that you put in. Screen game and stuff. To me, that's continuing running. That's an extension of running the ball, and I do think that would be a wrinkle of maybe how you could disrupt Seattle's defense if they are stacking the box and doing all those things. To me, Seattle wants to do the same thing. I know they don't have Kenneth Walker, but they'll try to do it with Zach Charbonnet. I don't think that they'll be good enough. But I think you stop that and make Geno Smith beat you. And I know they have the good receivers, but I don't think Geno Smith's good enough to beat you. I think he'll make mistakes. I think that he'll turn it over a couple of times, and I think that's what the Patriots need to do to have success on offense. They need some short fields. They need some extra possessions. So I think if you are able to make them one-dimensional and put in Geno Smith's hands, you're able to get extra possessions.
Does Geno Smith have better people, though, to help him out, Paul?
Yes.
With Metcalf and Lockett specifically?
Yeah, and Jackson Smith and
the
Jigba.
kid from Ohio State.
Yeah. Those are the two I worry about, Lockett and Smith and Jigba. But I just feel like he's not good enough. He's a backup who's starting now. Much like it's amazing to me the similarities between the teams.
But Geno Smith has really had a nice little revival here. And I'm not
he
trying
had
to
a
tell you
nice
that
half a season 2 years ago.
Okay, I'm not trying to tell you he's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
but
he took the league by
nice
storm 2 years ago in the first half of the year, and since then he has gone the way of Geno Smith, journeyman backup.
But I will say I like what Paul mentions about these teams being similar. Their pass protection was bad last week, and it's because their offensive line is struggling in the same way that the Patriots are. They don't have a lot of healthy bodies out there right now. Is it their right tackle?
They're down to the third string right tackle, and they straightened it out in the second half, but that's going to be an issue. I think the Patriots can get after them, and I think Geno Smith will make mistakes.
I want to see the pass rush today. I want to see the same kind of disruption we saw early continue through the game. I think that's a big key to putting the game in Geno's hands, because those receivers are good, and if they have too much time, those guys are going to get open eventually. So as much as I like the Patriots secondary, I think that they're the strength of the defense. You got to see another disruptive game out of Keon White. You got to see those guys working together in concert to get after Geno Smith and finish him off once you get there.
Webradio@patriots.com is how you can connect with us via electronic mail. Tamara, to push off of your pass protection part, this from Kyle wanting to know, was last week's game against the Bengals just an aberration with the offensive line, or can they be actually a solid unit? Pass protection seems shaky, but can they be above average to very good run blocking offensive line? Thoughts? Too soon to tell?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of in that feeling out phase where you overreact to the first week, or you overreact to what you've seen, or
week one,
or what you haven't seen. And I mean, I think every time these teams take the field, it's like Paul kind of hinted at. Like, every team needs to face some adversity. Every team is going to have to be able to go out, get into a little bit of a hole, and still be able to execute and get back into how they want to play the game. And that's just something that I think is a function of the early part of the season. You haven't seen it all yet.
Now, I would also just I think that what the Patriots did last week on the offensive line is more than reasonable to expect. I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary last week. Maybe I'm in the minority on that. I think they were okay. And I said this in the pregame show last week. I never go into a game saying to myself, the offensive line will be a train wreck today and completely prevent one team from winning the game. Yeah. I don't see that happen a lot. I know people talk about it a lot, like it happens all the time. I don't really think that that's the biggest reason that things happen. I'm not telling you it never happens. But I think that you can reasonably expect the Patriots to do what they did last week on the offensive line, and that is open a hole or two in the running game. Make sure you don't just allow Brissett to have to deal with, a runaway guy on every pass. There was a couple of occasions where they missed assignments last week. It did not happen the whole game. I think that's more than reasonable to expect.
So I want to ask you guys this one. Young team, wins their first one on the road, home opener, coming home feeling good about themselves. Historically, it might be a good spot for a road team to catch somebody on. How do you think the staff dealt with trying to keep expectations a little bit in check in knowing that, yep, we won, we did what we wanted to do, but there's so much more we need to do? And I thought I heard Gerard say that during the week. Do you believe that message is getting through to the players, knowing that we're not going to win 16-10 games very often?
Well, I mean, what stood out to me was that he said on Thursday or Friday that they didn't have a great practice on Wednesday. He just came right out and said it. I mean, I don't think we ever heard that from Bill. Sometimes you would get like the
it after the game,
the pre-TV meeting, like,
right.
Well, they told us, in the pre-meeting that
right.
they didn't have sounding like Gerard was happy with how they bounced back on Thursday, but it is interesting. I mean, there are some young pieces on this team. You got to trust the veteran leadership to, try to keep them, on the same page. But I don't know, just what this team's been through the last couple of years. I would hope that they realize how valuable it is, to get these games early on and to take advantage. I mean, this is kind of a game that's going to define this Patriots season. I know, Paul, you said before the season you looked this one as one you could maybe throw as a toss-up, for better or worse. I mean, maybe not exactly, and obviously Kenneth Walker being out affects that. But if you're, these are the games that define your season right now as a team that's trying to get back into the playoff mix. You're playing a team that's similarly in the same position, new head coach, similar questions. We talked, there's similar teams. How do you play in these games? If these are the games last year Patriots always seemed to lose, and that's why they won 4 games. They couldn't beat the middle class of the NFL.
Well, if Las Vegas is any indicator, and I don't follow those sorts of things, but they didn't seem very impressed with it. I think the Seahawks are 3-point favorites here, road favorites, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike is right. I think this is one of those toss-up games that you go in, and I think they look at both of these teams in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
Prove it to me, right?
Yeah, I think both of the teams are trying to build something. They both had, and Matt, you mentioned this off air. I know we'll get to it a little later, but they're both in similar positions with long-time veteran head coaches that had a lot of success where they were. They're moving on and starting a new phase. It's Mike Macdonald in Seattle, and I think they're 2 of the youngest. Gerard Mayo's the youngest coach, right?
No,
Macdonald is the youngest coach,
got hired, yeah.
And then Mayo is the second behind McVay, right? It's McVay and then Mayo,
yeah.
Right? So 2 of the 3 youngest coaches in football going at it. There's a lot to learn.
I find that a fascinating topic. I believe that this week is Exhibit A of, the new era head football coach. Young, relatable to the players, willing to do things differently. That owners are now seeing, like, we're looking for a fresh approach. We need people who can relate to a 25, 26-year-old kid. The fact that these guys are facing off in week 2, I just find fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great, on paper. I've said many times there's many different ways to coach a team successfully, and it's just the bottom line is, do the guys play hard for them? Do they play disciplined football without having the disciplinarian type coach? And I hope so. I mean, it was really encouraging to not see them make those kind of stupid mistakes in the first week. And I mean, that's something that we saw last year in self-inflicted wounds. So I'm hopeful that it works because it certainly seems like the atmosphere is a little bit looser. But at the same time, we all know that there's a fine line between being too loose and not quite being ready and having all the details sorted out. So first week, give them an A. They took care of all those details.
Absolutely.
Now they're at home. They got to take care of those details again.
Webradio at Patriots.com. Seth from Seattle writing in. I live in the area in a house full of Seahawks fans. This is a must-win game today. Might have to book a hotel for the night if we lose. Gino is very overrated out here. Paul is right.
There you go.
I'm going to repeat that. Paul is right.
Yeah,
Get him off his spot.
I don't
Force him
think
to
he-
make mistakes because he will go Pats.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
think
Seth.
that's what he is. I don't think he's overrated. I think he's considered to be a journeyman backup. That's how I think he's sort of viewed around the league.
Are his legs, do you need to keep him
He's
in the pocket?
very much like Jacoby Brissett.
Okay. He looked a little bit more athletic on that touchdown run last week.
He had a long run for a touchdown. I don't think that's how Geno Smith wants to make his living.
Okay. Mike, you agree?
I do agree, but I'd also just like to shout out the Seahawks fans. I love the Seahawks. They were my B team growing up, so I give them a little love.
So this is how long?
Are we going to drill down into that a little bit?
How long have we been holding this out?
Yeah.
No kidding.
I'm not sure why. I
Revelation.
love Steve Largent. I somehow randomly.
There's mixed emotions
like
today.
that time with Dave Craig.
I like Jim Zorn.
Why did I like
lefty
I don't-
quarterback?
Yeah, there you go. But I went
What are you
to
snorting at?
I went to a couple games out there. You guys have been to
He's a
games out
jag.
there, right? 08. I went to 08 and 12. Awesome atmosphere. I mean, just great fan base out there. Really good organization, the way they run games and stuff. And, you got to have a lot of respect for, Pete Carroll and the run that he had. And obviously, great Super Bowl game against us and a great Super Bowl for them, probably the one they prefer to remember the year before against Denver. But, overall, it's one of the coolest places to play. And I just wish they would stick with those throwback uniforms from last week the whole time. Like, let's go. Get back to that stuff. I love those things.
In the walk to the stadium, which is a nice little area,
love
everything
it.
around there.
Love it.
I was behind a guy wearing a USC football jersey, number 32.
Yeah.
And the name said, "I did it." Which I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
A nice touch.
Was he supporting Pete there? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Somewhat, yeah.
One quick note from the warm-ups. No one is working out with the athletic trainers, so it's looking good for the questionable people.
I wonder if that is more a nod, Tamara, to your earlier weather report in saying, if we're going to go out there and really work up a sweat and everything like that, what's the fatigue factor? Do I need to reserve what I've got, stay in here, hydrate, and whatever the time is that, is the minimum that I need to go out there to do it, I wonder if they're trying to save a little energy by that,
Yeah.
if it's as hot as you've claimed,
Or just
Yeah.
keep it close to the vest.
Actually,
That's
well,
also
Keep it close to the
not
vest.
to spoil your thing, Tamara, but looks like Kyle Duggar is out. Just took the field to warm up early. So
course.
as soon as you walk by, Mike Reese clicked a pic of Kyle Duggar, who popped up on the injury report with an ankle this week.
Webradio at Patriots.com. Another email. This one from Todd, who wants to know, good morning, pregame crew. And remember that Evan had a best case scenario for the O-line, was with everyone playing in the best position for them. What exactly do you feel is the best lineup for the offensive line? Owenu at guard? Who plays right tackle then if he's at guard? Thanks, guys and gal. Todd and Gardner.
Wallace. I mean, I think in a perfect world. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how to suss it out, but I think at left guard between City, who's been hurt, and Layden Robinson, if you could maybe pop him back over there, and then I think Onwenu to me still is at his best at a guard position. So if you were able to get Wallace at right tackle and Robinson at left guard, and you feel good about Onwenu at right guard, and we know David Andrews is there, then it's really just, can we get by with Vidarian
Yeah.
Lowe? Can he make strides?
I would agree that that's the best case scenario.
Do you
I don't
like-
know that would make them best. Now, this is where the Okorafor thing does come into play.
No question.
kind of out of options.
Do you
Right.
like Jordan behind Robinson there in terms of like the left guard position?
I mean, long term, yeah, just simply because Layden Robinson seems like
So
a
young,
young
yeah.
rookie ascending player. He's gotten some love from OL Twitter, if that's a thing. Like the offensive line Twitter seems to really like Layden Robinson, but getting Wallace some experience last week. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I assume they're going to approach it like they ended the game last week with Wallace being that third tackle piece, and will come in again. But I like getting him experience, and I think at some point if he's able to show some stuff and get in at right tackle, you might have some pieces for the future, and it's not like we're looking at we have to rebuild the whole offensive line next year. We might have one big spot that we really need to
Let's
fill.
dive
So-
a little bit deeper on Robinson, if you don't mind, because this week on Patriots All Access, Scott Peters was the coach who was doing a player spotlight, And I don't think it was a coincidence that I was looking at 2 running plays and 3 pass protection plays. Robinson was involved in every single one of the plays. And it wasn't specific to Robinson, but he made it a point to say, here's Robinson in here. I think they've got high hopes for this kid, and I think they're banking on him. You called him an ascending player. I think they like what they've seen so far of him.
Yeah, it would be great. That's what they need right now. And even with, I don't know what to expect from City. So, I mean, he was there at left guard for most of the summer when some of the struggles were happening, and now we haven't really seen him for a bit. So, that's kind of the hope of like, well, you could always put Robinson back on the left side, and then you've got Robinson and maybe on Onwenu, but maybe that depends on So and how well he recovers and if he's able to, reassume that job once he gets back.
So one quick note that I was thinking about, do you think that Caden Wallace, he played 18 snaps as an eligible tight end last week to help the offensive line have an extra blocker? Do you think he's going to play as many snaps today as that eligible tight end?
I think that's the goal going in. Now, I think the game will dictate whether or not that they can be in a position to do that, but I think they really like that. And I think they were pretty productive in that.
I think you got to get away from that, though, because then you're just so one-dimensional. Okay. Like, you can't throw out of that. Mm-hmm. You have to run. Otherwise, you're losing a receiver. So I think that in a perfect world, they'd be able to pick and choose when they did that instead of having to rely on it as much as they did. It was productive, Matt, to your point. They ran the ball well when he was – matter of fact, I believe that they averaged more yards per play on the 16 plays that he played because the last 2 were kneel downs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The 16 plays that he was out there, they averaged more yards than they did passing.
So you can't make a living off of that formation?
No,
in spots.
Yeah, you can't make a living getting 290 yards and 16 points.
Yeah.
Like, so we can talk about all of the, the wonderful things they did offensively last week. You can't win doing that consistently. I know that I've gotten a lot of blowback from that this week on Patriots Unfiltered, and I'm probably wrong, but I don't think you can win that way on a consistent basis.
Colin from Seattle on the electronic mail writes in, I'm also from the Seattle area and was curious if you guys think that there's any significance to Polk's college offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, now calling plays for the Seahawks. I don't know. If Polk had any production or looked like a real piece of the offense in week 1, I think it would be a bigger story, but I'm not sure it means much in today's game. I don't really get the question.
I don't really get the question either. I mean, it's I think that there were some encouraging things, though, that Jalen Polk did last week that, make people wonder if they're going to try to get him the ball a little bit more. And I think that really has got to be part of the game plan. I mean, to you guys' point, you're going to have to throw the ball at some point. I think you're going to have to throw the ball.
And it's one thing for, the all-22 Cowboys to tell me how many times that these guys were open. The coaches talked about it. Mm-hmm. The coaches talked about missing some opportunities to make some plays in the passing game. So back to Matt's key about opening it up a little, I think you might have some opportunities to do that because I think they missed some last week, and I think Polk was one of those guys.
Yes, and in all honesty, how can you make any kind of evaluation about the wide receiver group or anything like that based off of last week? It was non-existent.
No. But I mean, just the fact that they're telling us guys we're open, whether or not you saw it yourself or you're just listening to people, it's showing that the offense is working, getting guys open, and that's what has to happen. It can't be that we need to rely on guys making catches with someone right on their hip. You've got to have enough of an offensive structure that you're able to get some guys some easy catches, and I think that's something with a guy like Pop Douglas, who is an explosive player. Let's get the ball in his hands a little bit.
2 targets? Yeah.
So get the ball in his hands a little bit more. There's some creative ways. I mean, we've talked about some of the screen game, that kind of stuff. Try to take Seattle's aggressiveness, take advantage of their aggressiveness.
What about getting him involved in the running game?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
A little end around, something like that. Yep.
I'd be up for that.
Yep.
Paul, are we allowed to take calls yet? Is
Yes.
that okay?
Yes.
We've reached that? Okay.
Yes.
Pat in Agawam has patiently been on hold. And good morning, Pat. Your first update with us on the Patriots pregame show, Fueled by Duncan.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just had a couple quick questions. I'll make them quick so you can get other callers on the line. The first thing, Gerard already said they want to run. I don't think Seattle's going to stop their run, but if they do you guys have enough trust in Jacoby Brissett to make plays to win the game with his arm? And second question is, there's this poll, I heard this poll going around X or Twitter or whatever, that if the Pats start out 2-0, will your expectations of them change going forward for the season? And that's all I got. I'll take it off the air. And, Matt, you're doing a great job so far, buddy.
You're kind, Pat. Thanks for the call.
I need to see it.
Let's go with his second point first, if we don't mind.
Yeah,
and that's the expectations game, Mike.
It's Paul's thing. What if they win like next week and Seattle turns the ball over 4 times and the Patriots don't make a single mistake? My expectations aren't going to really change. It's just that, I would say I would give them credit for being able to play 2 games in a row that were really clean and to, take advantage of an opponent's mistakes. But unless they go out there and light it up and throw for like 400 yards, my expectations might be like, whoa, all right, we got to pass.
My expectations were 1-1. So if it's 2-0, I'm not going to sit there and
poo-poo it.
Playoffs.
Question my every football thought. But to Mike's point, if it goes to 2-0 and the second win looks entirely different than the first,
now you might be onto something.
That might be, whoa. Now maybe they have the ability to do a couple of different things. Some of these young guys are, we talked about Polk a second ago. Some of these young guys really look like they fit the part. Yeah. I could change based on how good they look today.
To his first question, can they put the ball in Jacoby's hands and let him win the game for you? I don't think we've got enough information to see if that's possible.
I think, my thing with Jacoby I was a little surprised about this summer was just that he has a penchant to have some wild ones. Like we saw it even in the game last week where, he'll hit some throws, but then there's always going to be 1 or 2 that are coming in hot, coming in too high, just a little off. And, for me to truly trust him, you got to feel that confidence that he can walk down the field and, complete 8-9 passes on a drive and not have that one big miss on a 3rd down that's going to result in a punt.
Yeah, classic. For me, anything can happen in a one-off. I don't think you're going to make a living doing that. No.
Classic question here, webradio at patriots.com from Dan in VA in MI. So first, is he in VA or is he in MI?
Kind of his thing.
He's in Virginia by way of Michigan.
Okay.
Either that or the other way around.
Starts off with G'day socialators. Paul just noted his affection for Jim Zorn. Does Paul remember the words? There's no chance of this. Does Paul remember the words to the Drink Milk song from the commercial featuring Jim Zorn and Steve Largent, or does his Rain Man-esque memory for football history only apply to the actual game? Outstanding. Electronic mail there.
Mike, do you remember the Steve Largent milk commercial?
No, I'm kind of upset I don't, though.
I don't.
That's nice.
But Dan knows me well, so that's it. That is something that would be on my radar. I just don't remember it.
Are there any good left-handed quarterbacks?
No.
No, never have been.
Boomer?
Never, not once.
There were a few that had success. Boomer, Steve Young, Kenny Stabler, but
Steve Young, Hall of Fame. We should, because that's a definite.
Doesn't belong there, but that's a different story.
Can I tell a quick little nonsense story? No,
it's nothing. There's no other kind.
It's related to Steve Largent, but I collected football cards, and Steve Largent was like the really one I wanted bad. Like I didn't have it yet. You know how you go to back in the old days, it wasn't like I buy a whole box. You get a couple packs, and one day you're helping. So in middle school, I was in CCD. Thank you very much. Good Catholic boy, and I was allowed to walk to CCD after school, and so there's a place in Holliston, Fisk's, love it, old school, where I bought all my football cards, and I made a deal with God. I was like, look, God, I could go to Fisk's first and get my football cards, or I could go to CCD first and do that first, and then I'll go. So if I go to CCD first, God, you got to give me the Steve Largent. That's exactly what happened.
Made the right choice.
I never forgot it. So God, thanks for that Steve Largent card. I'm not sure where it is now, but
bold strategy, Cotton.
I know. Yeah. Things to stick with you.
We were talking earlier about.
I just meant admitting that you were Catholic. Bold strategy in this day and age.
I'm lapsed.
We were talking earlier about wide receiver involvement and how can they, will they, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to just look at it a little bit more and look at the tight end involvement. Okay, is that a little better area where they can maybe make some hay, a little safer throw, whether that's checking down into the flat, whether it's a little dump off into the middle, or things like that? That Hooper and Henry can get things going to help move the sticks, and maybe that helps open up the running game.
Do you think Hooper can drive the boat today, Paul?
Hooper can drive the boat. To Matt's point, though, about opening things up a little bit, I think you might hit some. I think you can use those guys to get down the field a little bit more. So I feel more comfortable with getting one of those guys down the seam,
or
like maybe an over, maybe a dagger concept, Mike.
Whoa!
We can run leak. What do you think?
Anything's possible.
Mike knows
we're getting crazy.
I'm just.
Well, it's a great question, Matt. I think that was part of the most effective part of their offense consistently this summer.
I couldn't agree
with the tight ends.
Right.
Specifically wrote about those guys this week. Went and talked to Bob McNell, the tight ends coach, also a Holliston native, by the way. But he said, it was interesting because he said when we first signed Hooper, I went and looked at his stats, and he said the two guys are almost identical in terms of their catches. Like, it's kind of weird. He said they aren't exactly the same player. They kind of get about things a different way, but they have similar skill sets. I think it's a great way. I talked a little bit about I'm not entirely confident in Jacoby Brissett to string a lot of big passing plays together, but I think those tight ends, he's comfortable with those guys. He knows Hooper a little bit. Hooper knows the system. Henry is right there with him. So I just think those guys are really consistent, especially in the red zone for a team that went 1 for 4 in the red zone last week. Those are guys I think you need to get involved today and make them part of this attack.
The red zone is a good point too, and Gerard did bring that up again.
1 for 4.
You can't consistently pass up those opportunities, and I think they need to be a little bit more aggressive. I think if they get in there again, and you get in there 4 times, that's obviously a good sign.
We're talking tight ends here a little bit. Joe from Weymouth wants to know, where is Tyquan Thornton and when will he record a touchdown? Sort of another one of the wide receiver forgotten names.
I thought he was their best
week.
wide receiver last week.
He was.
Couple nice catches. Yeah, I mean, overall, just not a lot of production from the wide receivers, but he's going to continue to get his chances today. He'll be out there for sure. I would bet he'll play in a large
that's
number
right.
of snaps.
We say that he was the best wide receiver last week. There was nothing really to judge the wide receivers on. They weren't a part of the offense last week, but I thought Thornton did a good job with his 2 opportunities.
And they weren't just 9 routes. He did a couple of little different things.
Yeah, he ran 1 deep route and didn't get open, but I like the other 2 plays a lot, a lot more. 2 for 27, I think it was.
Yeah.
Carving out some space on a sort of a deep slant.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that he's still out there and has had a good summer, had a brief little injury thing where he was missed a practice or 2, but was back out there, and that's what you like about Polk. As much as Polk just was out there every day, consistent. Even Javon Baker, that's the only way for these rookies not to get behind the 8 ball. We've seen it too many times. Even talented kids who just fall behind and then they never can quite catch up. Polk's been there every single day. Thornton's been there pretty much every single day, and you feel like this early part of the season, it's now or never. But this is it. Now is your chance, Tyquan. You need to make some plays and really prove that you deserve this spot in the offense where they need him. They need him to do a number of things.
Before we say goodbye to Paul for a couple of minutes, let's go back to the phones, 855-PATS-500, and check in with Floyd from Michigan. Good morning, Floyd. You join us now on Patriots Pregame Show, fueled by Duncan.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Floyd.
Good morning.
My question is, should Drake May, should he have to earn the right to be the starting quarterback, or should the opportunity be given to him? And before you answer, I would like to bring up a couple quarterbacks. Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Did they have to earn that, or was it given to them? So again, the question is, does Drake May have to earn the right to start, or do you give him the opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you, Floyd. Mike?
Yeah, for my purposes, he has to earn it. I mean, I think that's, if I was a coach, that would be my philosophy of I think when you go and name a guy, a starter, a sight unseen, hasn't even ran a play yet. It's just, I don't love the message it sends to us. Now, maybe that's a little bit of a charade, and everybody knows it. These guys were drafted 1st and 2nd overall, and the Patriots clearly had a plan to put Jacoby Brissett in place, and I think we saw last week why they did that. But I need to see Drake earn it. He needs to. We saw plenty of articles this week. Check out Evan Lazar wrote, a great piece about Drake, what his first week was like. A lot of virtual work. Even Gerard confirmed he's getting an increase in reps. 30% was the number. So they're still keeping an eye on Drake. It's not like he's the backup now and he's in the background. So I think they're giving him all the opportunities to continue to develop, but he has to earn it in some sort of way. Hey, he had a great practice. He seems to know what's going on, and I mean, you can't say that without connecting it to how's the team doing. I mean, if the team is not losing, then it's hard to say the opportunity's there. But.
So 1 week down, Mike, and I think everything's to form. The plan remains the same. Really interesting that Gerard came out and talked about the 30% reps. I did think Evan's article was very good. He must earn the spot. He's not going to be given anything. So after last week, the way Brissett sort of managed the game, did exactly what they hoped. After week 1, everything looks good. What happens when it doesn't look good? And then there's more heat to, is he ready yet? Does those 30% jump to 40%?
Yeah.
How long can they stay with the plan until they need to enact the plan?
I think the big piece of this whole puzzle, and it totally connects back to last summer, and it connects to what I said earlier with Jacoby Brissett, was there's just a certain lack of explosiveness in their passing game. And whether it's Jacoby Brissett being smart and not wanting to take a chance, We saw plenty of times this year that Drake May is willing to put the ball up down the field, and he's got good accuracy, and he can get it there in a hurry. So I think that might be the sticking point, Matt. That's where, look, the offense, they're doing okay. They're okay, but guys are open downfield, and we are not explosive enough to get the ball down to them to compete in these games. So maybe you have a couple results where there were plays to be made. We lost the game, but had we made those plays down the field, we think we're going to be right there with people. And then that's the feeling of, we got the kid with the arm who can get it down there and make those big plays.
Okay, we're closing in on 11:30 on the East Coast here, and that's the 90-minute mark before the 1 o'clock games. Mike, are we a little too early yet on the inactive? Do we have anything that has breaking yet? Do any breaking sound effects, Matt, or anything like that for breaking news, like when the inactives go or no?
Let's see.
Has anything hit on the Twitterverse?
Nothing has hit the Twitterverse as of yet. But we're seeing here, Doug Hyde just had a tweet, though, saying, expect to see Patriots wicket wide receiver Javon Baker active today. So not sure what Doug knows. It just looks like Javon's out there working with the receivers. No sign of Keyshawn Booty. So, yeah, we should be inactives here any minute. I'm sure Tamara's monitoring those as well.
So let's go to Tamara, who joins us now out on the field with maybe what the activity level has increased as we're getting to the 90-minute mark. Tamara.
Thank you, Matt Smith. We do actually have the inactive. It's Keyshawn Booty, it's Curtis, it's DeMontre So, and of course Joe Milton. They will not be playing today, but it's good news because that means Dietrich Wise, JaMychal Hasty, Kyle Duggar, as well as Layden Robinson will be active and playing today. I talked to Layden Robinson in the locker room ahead of this matchup, and he said, I love that we are playing throwback football. I like that Gerard Mayo wants to run the ball a lot because that's what I did a lot at Texas A&M. So he is happy to be out here active today and helping the Patriots run the football, which is what they want to lean on today.
So, Tamara, the one that strikes me, and Mike, you can join in here as well, Booty out, Baker in. That seems like an even swap to me. Why?
I think it's a great swap, especially what we saw out of Jalen Reagor throughout camp. He was one of the guys that was really productive, especially on special teams. So I don't know if we'll see him a lot there, but I thought he was extremely dynamic when we were able to see them in special teams throughout training camp. And also, he's a veteran guy. He's got experience. And like you mentioned in your key to the game, if they want to open things up, he's a guy you want to have out there.
This is great, Tamara. You look awesome out there. I love this new addition to the pregame show here. We got our live sideline reporter. Just Tamara, real quick, what do you see from the guys out there right now who are getting some early warm-ups in?
Yeah, right now they're just getting loose. Nothing too crazy, but I think we'll see more of the actual lineup, especially for the offensive line once they get out here in jerseys, probably in about, I think, 30 to 40 minutes or so. But right now it's just guys getting loose, honestly talking to each other. They're seeing familiar faces on both teams.
Tamara, one more from me. It's been an hour maybe or so since you were outside.
Yeah.
Is the sun a little stronger? Has your thoughts from a conditioning standpoint in the weather, how much of a factor do you think that's going to play today?
I think they're definitely going to have to remember those hot days on the hill. I don't know if you can see it on my face right now, but I feel like sweat is pouring down my face, which is not a good sign for me and my makeup. But these guys, they're used to it. They've been conditioning all summer. They had those long practices throughout the end of training camp, which Gerard Mayo has them prepared for days like this.
I don't see it. You're looking great. So, and a great report.
Thank you.
So I think it's good news, Mike, that Kyle Duggar is in the lineup today. I know that was a little bit of a late week scare, right? Tamara, wouldn't you agree that's important that he's in today?
Yeah, I am really happy that Kyle Duggar is out here today. To me, it's like a sigh. It's like a sigh of relief because you don't have to rely on those young guys having to go out there and face the three-headed monster of Lockett, Metcalf, and JSN. So this is going to be a tough test for them. Obviously, they caught a break last week when you only had Jamar Chase, who was limited, and didn't have T. Higgins. This week, they have a true test with 3 healthy wide receivers out there.
Great. Good stuff. Tamara Brown, thank you very much. From the field here at Gillette Stadium as the Patriots are getting ready to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Kickoff in maybe a little bit more than 90 minutes. Mike, any takeaways from the inactive list that you saw?
Just one little interesting piece. Zachary Thomas, being one of the offensive linemen that they brought in late, he will be active. So I think with Okorafor out, he's the next man up in terms of just rotational depth. But just things hopefully you're not going to need to worry about until unless there was possibly an injury. So good news though on JaMychal Hasty providing a little depth. I don't even think he got in there on offense last week, but. Duggar, huge piece of what they do. I mean, last week they dodged a bullet with Jabril Peppers, who had a sudden hip injury, and now this week Duggar pops up with an ankle injury. So those two guys a little bit banged up, but Peppers came off the report yesterday. Seems like both of them will be okay, along with Jalen Hawkins. Three good safeties that I think played really well together last week.
Let me ask you to go back to the Twitter world, Mike. And I know there's a lot of interest from maybe some of the fantasy participants and things like that. Plus, from a competitive standpoint, I don't think many Patriots fans are expecting Kenneth Walker to play. Have the Seahawks released their inactives yet?
Yeah, he's officially out.
That's got to be good news for the Patriots.
Yeah, starting right tackle George Fant as well. So two big pieces for them. Nwosu, outside linebacker starter, is out as well. So, yeah, a few of those guys. I mean, I know Jerome Baker, Paul mentioned it, Terrell Dodson, the other linebackers. Those guys are active, but they are a little bit banged up, battling injuries. And old friend Pharaoh Brown, inactive, unfortunately. Remember him from last year, Matt? The big touchdown against the Jets there.
Yep.
So, it's a break for the Patriots.
It is a break for the Patriots.
Not to have to face Kenneth Walker. He's outstanding. But, yeah.
So they'll go to Zach.
Charbonnet
from
UCLA, and also Kenny McIntosh was a guy that I liked coming out of Georgia, a little bit of receiving back, third down kind of guy. So I think those two guys will probably.
It's a committee approach that Seattle's going to have to take, because I don't think either of those guys are in the Walker category as far as being a bell cow kind of back.
And Walker, just outstanding. I mean, you saw last week what he was able to do once he got going. So. Look, no question. I mean, that's a part of the Patriots' defense. They want to take away the run, and not having to deal with their best back is a nice boost. But, again, I really – can they take advantage of the right tackle situation? Is that something they can target? Do they use, Josh Uche, who also just came off the injury report with an ankle injury, so he's healthy. Uche, he's not going to be an every down kind of guy, but he has a specific set of skills that can be very valuable, especially against bigger tackles. He's able to get under him. He's got that quickness.
Which I think we saw a little of that down the stretch in the fourth quarter when they were trying to put some extra heat on Burrow.
Yep.
And I thought Uche did a nice job in that spot. Webradio at Patriots.com. This is Dougie from Scotland across the pond wanting to say, I don't know why I'm feeling optimistic about the offense today. I think they will move the ball well and actually put some points on the board. Which group do you think will score the most points? Tight ends, wide receivers, or running backs? Love the show. Matt, you're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Dougie, I think we're related, by the way, but I'm not sure. Any event.
Is he a Smith?
No.
There's a lot of Smiths.
Offense, opening up, optimistic.
I would.
Is there a group that you see there or an individual that you're going to say, hey, highlight this person or highlight this group, because I think there's an expectation that they'll be more involved.
Well, I think you led us to it, Matt. I think it's the tight end. So I think that's.
I do too.
It's like, again, I think Seattle's going to make a focus, try to not let them run. I think the Patriots are still going to try to run, and they'll attempt plenty. It's hard, though, to put a lot of faith in all of a sudden Tyquan Thornton, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, those guys getting downfield, making big plays. So I think the tight ends, they're established. They've been in the offense. They were kind of banged up at the end of camp. They're now both seeming to be fully healthy. They're kind of interchangeable, and I think that they'll be deployed in a creative way today to get them involved. And just those quick passes, especially where they're tight to the formation and you've got a team in Seattle that they like to have a lot of window dressing, a lot of guys walking around, who's coming, who's going, you don't know. Two smart tight ends on either side, knowing where the holes in the zones are if they do blitz. I think that's going to be really valuable and something that Jacoby Brissett can lean on if they get too aggressive.
I'd hesitate to call this person my binky, but I'm intrigued by Jakeem Bell. Okay, so we're week 2, inactive. When is it time for maybe him to get a chance or do something like that? Am I putting too much stock in a sixth round pick?
Yes, 7th, I think. You think he was the very last guy.
I just like the Swiss Army knife nature of his game on a team that's lacking a lot of offensive firepower. I'm wondering if he can plug in and do some different things. Clearly, the coaching staff doesn't see that yet. That's the only one opinion who counts.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering where you think that there might be an opportunity for him.
I mean, honestly, even as a rookie, I feel like he might be the most explosive athlete of that group. He's a very, very surprising guy for his size, how well he moves and how quick he was. That was what stood out to me. I don't really have a lot of expectations just because you've got two really good veteran guys. Is it that much of a difference at this point to take one of those guys out of the mix? I don't think so yet, but I'm with you, man. I'm intrigued by his, versatility. You wonder kind of maybe next year.
Too soon.
Austin Hooper on a 1-year deal. I think maybe in a perfect world, Bell rises into this TE2 role. But just like I'd say with Wallace, anytime they have a way to get some rookies out there and get some NFL experience, even if it's just special teams, love seeing Baker out there today maybe to get some opportunities. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't actually play. Like, he doesn't get in. I mean, Booty didn't even play last week. So maybe it's more of a running thing, and that was how it was last week. But I don't know. I mean, The thing with Baker, too, is that, I mentioned earlier, he gets downfield, and May was willing to take the shots to him, and he dropped a lot of those passes. Like, is he going to be able to do that in a game? And, would Brissett be willing to put it up to him?
Up against a break here in a little bit, but before we do, let's squeeze one more call in. 855-PATS-500, the number. Spee from California. You're next on the Patriots pregame social, fueled by Duncan.
What's up? Really excited for the game today. Got a couple Seahawks fans coming over to watch with, so it adds some tension. I'm hoping Patriots can get that play action pass going, but kind of doubtful they will. But I wanted to ask you guys about Gonzalez versus Metcalf. Just thinking this has the potential to be a little telling for Gonzo, because he's not necessarily that physically aggressive style corner that like maybe Witherspoon is, and I wonder if that's an issue for Gonzalez going up a beast like Metcalf, and just wanted to see what you guys thought about that matchup, how it might unfold today.
Thanks for your call. That's a good question, Spee, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that. We spent a lot of time in the postgame show last week talking about Gonzalez. Did he shut him down? Did he not? I think the media kind of looked at what he did, and as Paul mentioned, the All-22 Cowboys, I thought Gonzalez got a little bit more credit maybe than he deserved. It'll be interesting to see if they target him with Metcalf this week, Mike.
I'm a little torn on this, and Paul was put him on Metcalf, and my, kind of feeling on it is, I feel like Tyler Lockett is still the engine of this offense, and I think that Christian Gonzalez is a good matchup with him. I think he has the athleticism to really dominate that matchup, whereas DK's the big play guy, and you probably want to keep a safety aware of DK Metcalf at all times as well. So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I honestly, I wonder if there's a world to put Gonzalez instead on Lockett and really try to take away the clutch third down kind of stuff and take your chances with a safety deep over Metcalf, and hope he doesn't make those big plays. But you still got JSN on the other side, who is again an emerging player. I think who has good explosiveness. He's an underrated player still.
All right, time for a break now. We'll be going behind the enemy lines when we return. Time for break, but first, here's a question for the crowd. If your team runs on their fans, what do the fans run on? When you kick off your day with Duncan, we're with you all the way to the end zone. Make a run to Duncan, official coffee run of the New England Patriots. We'll be right back.
Your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex This contours to it, so the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke for the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex This contours to it, so the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke for the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice! Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns
That's right.
to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice.
Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
You know the view from New England, but what about the view from the other side?
And that's why you're our favorite pregame show guest every year.
You guys know you tell everybody that.
Oh yeah.
I was on with you guys in 2018 Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
And I was told I was the favorite guest of the show.
Nope.
No.
Time now to go behind enemy lines.
My God, it's coming right for us.
And welcome back to Gillette Stadium here, where we are in the middle of the Patriots pregame social, fueled by Duncan. Nat Smith here, and alongside, we'd like to welcome in John Boyle from Seahawks.com. Thanks for coming in the studio, John. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. I think it's been 8 years since I've been down here.
Was that the goal line?
Gronk and Cam Chancellor at the goal line.
Fourth down, yeah.
That was Earl Thomas.
Yep.
Yeah. That big hit on Gronk in that game.
It's also the game that Pete Carroll inexplicably went for 2
Did
to
he?
try to make
I
it a
don't remember
9-point
that part.
game instead of kicking the extra point and making it 8. And Belichick had that look. Do I have to score wrong?
So, Paul, you mentioned Belichick, you mentioned Carroll, and we're obviously based and biased here in the East Coast, John. But it just seems very strange to look at the Seattle Seahawks team, and I'm wondering, why is Pete Carroll not there? And instead of the two oldest coaches going up against each other in the National Football League, today, this afternoon, we've got the two youngest coaches going up against each other. It's a fascinating turn of events.
It is, yeah. And, look, I would say I was a little surprised, like a lot of people, when that came down after the season ended. Those decisions are obviously made way above my pay grade. I don't know everything that went into it, but I think it was ultimately just, they'd been doing, obviously, Pete Carroll done amazing things there, best coach in franchise history and all that, but I think it just felt like they weren't really progressing the last couple of years. They won 9 games each of the last 2 years and missed the playoffs. And it was, I think a lot of it was they struggled on defense last year, especially down the stretch. And, they go out and get the best defensive guy who was out there. So I think that was a big part of it, is just wanting to get that defense going.
How do you think that turn to a new leadership and a new way of doing things, how's it going so far?
I think really well. Players seem to really embracing it. They really like what Mike McDonald's bringing there. And it was interesting because it didn't feel quite as big of a change, maybe because you kept the same GM. It's the same front office. A lot of the cultures there. When Mike McDonald came in, he and John Schneider both said, this is already a great place. What Pete Carroll and John Schneider built is, great culture, all that. So he hasn't tried to just drastically tear it down and rebuild. He's doing his own thing. He's his own coach, but it's been pretty smooth. And I think football-wise, everyone's really excited about what he's bringing to the team.
John, we just saw the inactives come out, number of starters out for you guys.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker, the headliner. Just what do you see with those guys that aren't going to be playing today?
Yeah, Kenneth Walker's coming off a great game. He had 84 yards in the second half of that game, so it's a big blow for them. They do really like Zach Charbonnet, their second-round pick. That he's played well, and when he's played, he hasn't played as much as Kenneth Walker, but he's going to be the guy carrying the load. So it's tough. They're all banged up on the line as well. George Fant started last week at right tackle, because their usual starting right tackle, Abe Lucas, is injured as well. So they're testing their depth there.
Do you think that they're going to have to lean on the running game today? Just like the Patriots, their offensive line is really thin. Do you think that pass protection is going to be an issue?
We saw it was an issue in the first half last week until they got the run game going. So I'm sure they want to lean on that for sure. But I think most coaches will tell you can't be too stubborn either with it. If you're running it over and over, it's not working. They love the weapons they have in the passing game and what Geno Smith brings. So I don't think you necessarily just have to pound it for the sake of pounding it. But if they can get that going, that'd be a big help.
So I know that Seattle, with Kenneth Walker, ran the ball really effectively, just like you said. If they are not able to do it as well with the banged-up line and obviously the backup in Charbonnet, can Geno Smith get the ball to these three guys? Because obviously you have the weapons at wideout. Can he effectively, if the game's put on his shoulders, can he win it?
I mean, I think he's more than capable of doing that. We've seen him do it over the last couple of years. It's, going back to her questions, the pass protection, if they can hold up. That was the issue the first half last week. He gets sacked on the first play and he's hit throwing the second play and it gets intercepted. So, but we've seen him. I mean, there's been games over the last couple of years. They didn't run the ball very well last year in general, and he was, still able to carry them to a lot of wins. So, yeah, he's definitely got the talent around him, and I think he's got the ability to do that as well.
John, Mike McDonald comes from the Baltimore system.
Mhm.
He's a Raven. He's got that Raven background with him. Is it a Raven-like style defense that he wants to employ?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of what, if you watch the Ravens the last couple of years, it's a lot of the same stuff, disguising the way they bring pressure, the different coverages. I think I saw is like they were in at least 4 different coverages, more than 10% of their snaps last week. So they're mixing it up quite a bit. And yeah, just really creative pressure packages where you're not necessarily bringing, you're not bringing the house every down, but it's teams you might rush 4, but they don't know which 4 is coming. So it looks a lot like Baltimore last year.
And Gerard mentioned that during the week. Like I think one of the things that he was really impressed with when he was taking a look at the tape, as I think John just said, it's not that there's a lot of them, but you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity, I think, where the veteran leader in Jacoby Brissett and David Andrews has got to do a really good job of getting the line calls out, trying to find out, pre-snap, where's the pressure going to be coming from, and put him in the best position to succeed.
Yeah. John, maybe not quite the Legion of Boom yet, but I mean, between Love, Will, and Witherspoon, really talented players in the secondary. What have you seen from them over the course of the summer here into the week 1?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, I mean, we talk a lot about receiver because DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are big names, but I think probably cornerback might be, or defensive back in general might be their deepest and best position. A lot of young talent, as you just mentioned. I mean, 3 of those guys have been to the Pro Bowl in the last 2 years, and they're all pretty young. I mean, even Julian Love's like kind of the veteran leader, and he's only 26, I think. So a lot of talent there. They all played really well. Just probably, to me, the most encouraging thing we saw last week wasn't anything schematic, but just how much guys were just flying around, quick, sure tackles. Denver used a lot of short passes, and just every one of those, they just snuffed them out right away. So encouraging the way they're just running.
Can I follow up real quick? I mean, we were physical camp out here, and we noticed the same thing about the Patriots. They seemed to come out of the gate pretty good tackling.
Yeah.
We had a day where they were tackling to the ground. Did you notice? Was it a physical camp for the Seahawks?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, they didn't. I don't think they ever tackled the ground in practice. They did have kind of a scrimmage mock game thing where they did a little more of that. But yeah, I think it was. We've heard from a couple of players talking about just the way they drilled tackling, not necessarily tackling the ground, but just the way they emphasized it every day in practice, and some of the drills they did have really helped guys. Because sometimes week 1 that can be sloppy because teams aren't doing it. So it was pretty impressive the way they did it right out of the gate.
Defensively, last year, you mentioned they had a hard time running the ball. They also had a hard time stopping the run. First week, it looked like it was really good. Most of the damage was
Bo Nick
scrambles. Yeah. So is that something that you think they fixed, or is that just a good start?
We'll see, and I think this is a great early test because, yeah, I mean, to your point, Denver, I don't think that's going to be their strength this year, and B, they weren't that committed to it. They didn't run the ball a ton. So with what we saw from New England last week, if they run anything like they did, then this is going to be a great early test for this defense to see how well they fix it. I mean, they feel like they made some changes, both personnel and scheme-wise, to get better there, but the proof's going to be in the pudding here.
John, you mentioned early, and I don't know why I'm fascinated by this kind of nonsense, because at the end of the day,
I love nonsense. Here we go.
I don't know how much of a factor this actually is, but it's the old West Coast team, travel across the country, 1 o'clock. Does McDonald buy into it? Are there things that he wants to do to try to negate it, to try to get ahead, whether that's sleep or anything like that? Or does he just say, you know what, the game's at 1 o'clock, we're going to put our pads on and show up. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that was a topic this week because, they had a really good way that they did it under Pete Carroll, and so people asked Mike McDonald, are you just taking what they did? And he said, I think it was just a case like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because they looked at it, they talked to, sleep specialists and all that, and he really liked the setup they already had, which is basically if the Seahawks are coming east, they'll leave on Friday, get in Friday night, so you give players that extra day to adjust. And they've been, that used to be back in like the Mike Holmgren era, even when they were really good, that was just the death knell for this team. If they had to come east, it was almost always a loss to those 10 a.m. games. But in the last, I think, decade, I want to say the number's 24-11.
Wow.
Kicking off at 10 a.m. So whatever they got going, it worked really well. So I think McDonald came in and said, hey, this works for it. But they did do some things. They did some 10 a.m. practices in training camp, things like that to get guys ready for it.
Love it. No excuses. No excuses.
I have a quick question for you.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Seeing 2 safeties in a game seems pretty rare. Was it a fluke, do you think, or do you think it was just great plays made by the Broncos?
Yes. No, it was. I mean, the field position side of it was just, you had a good punt. You had, they muffed a punt. The Seahawks muffed a punt, put themselves in a hole. But it was, a lot of it was, like I said, the line was struggling early in that game. To their credit, they cleaned it up and got a lot better. But you had a hole, they tried to roll Geno out on a play, and you had a guard grab a guy, and he's, didn't let go soon enough. You can't do that. And then running play, they just got guys in the backfield and stuff to run. So, yeah, it was, the offense just could not get out of its own way. A lot of mistakes in the first half of that game. So it's rare, but I think it was just a combination of some poor execution and just some bad luck field position wise.
Yeah. Michael?
No, I think we've covered most of it.
We need your prediction. What's your score prediction?
Oh, boy.
Well, I was gonna wait for a second on that.
I don't like
Well, are you surprised, Mike, that they're coming east in there? And again, I don't put a lot of stock. I'm not a Vegas guy or a betting guy or anything like that, but it is a little surprising. Patriots coming off a win, home opener, and they're home underdogs to a team traveling all the way that Seattle is. Does that surprise you at all?
Yeah, it seems almost like that was based more on week one expectations versus because obviously what the Patriots did in week one was very impressive. So, I don't, obviously cannot do gambling stuff really, let alone.
Nor can we.
Yeah.
Do you have to take those courses too?
Oh yeah. All those gambling compliance.
Oh man, yeah.
So, but I don't think anybody in Seattle is looking at this game and like, oh, this is a pushover. They're not. They got everyone's attention last week for sure.
But the expectation is they're coming here to win. This.
Yeah. You asked Mike McDonald, we expect to win every week. We probably won't, and then we'll try to get better, but that's their goal.
All right, so with no pressure on you or anything like that. And
we do not keep track, unless you refuse to make a pick.
As you
then
look
we
at
mock
go
and
to the
ridicule
archives
you.
and see if I actually picked the Seahawks in 2016.
Now, what are your thoughts? What do you expect to see today as you're looking at this before the game starts?
I think both these teams are probably better defensively than offensively right now, so I think probably low scoring. Close game, and I feel like whenever I think that's going to happen, it's like 42-39. But I like the Seahawks' chances just because they managed to win despite getting in their way so much offensively. I think if they can just clean a little bit of that up, I think they've got a pretty good shot at. I think it's going to be tight, and they're going to be really tested against that running game, but I like their chances.
I share your thoughts on a low-scoring game. This has low-scoring game written all over it, despite the weather or anything like that. And the weather might be a factor. It might keep the score down from a conditioning standpoint. The Seahawks feel like they're in good condition as far as battling the sun?
they feel like they worked really hard in this camp, and they were really, one thing, kind of random topic here, but they went to Tennessee for those joint practices, flew out there on I want to say Tuesday, get up Wednesday morning for practice, 95 degrees and humid. Not a single, 4 Titans players cramped up, left that practice. Not a single Seahawks player did. So they felt really good about what that said about kind of their conditioning and how they prepped for that. So
be careful what you wish for if you want to take them to the hill, right? Be careful what you wish for. John, thank you very much. Appreciate your expertise.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, enjoy the game today.
Appreciate it.
And with that, we'll be back with more of the Patriots pregame social fueled by Duncan. Bridgestone is the official tire of the New England Patriots, and they're proud to partner with Sullivan Tire, New England's headquarters for quality Bridgestone tires. Visit sullivantire.com to find a location near you. We'll be right back.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This screen bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it, so the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This screen bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it, so the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Join the conversation by calling the Ace Ticket hotline at 855-PATS-500 or email the show at webradio@patriots.com. Live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, here's Matt Smith.
And welcome back to the Patriots Pregame Social, fueled by Duncan. The Patriots Pregame Show is brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours, which means I guess if we're going to talk DraftKings, we better go to over-unders, Matt.
It's time for this week's edition of Over-Unders.
Okay, do we care about the stats? Like
Yes.
the records and
Yes,
stuff like
we
that?
do.
Okay, all right.
We do, and this is when Mike Dussault and Paul Perillo offer a golf clap
Oh, yeah. there you
to
go.
our rookie host,
6-0.
who in week one, in his first foray into over-unders, went 6-0.
Yeah, I can't pick
Wow.
my nose, let alone
That is
any of the over-unders.
that is very
so.
impressive. So that would obviously mean that Matt's leading the way after 1 week, Mike.
Yeah, whoopee freaking
Followed
do.
by me at 3-3, and you
Whoop-de-damn-do.
at 2-4.
We don't have to read them anymore, Matt. if you
Okay,
don't
that's
want.
6-0.
Yeah, believe me. I'm
That's
not gonna
usually reserved only for me.
I won't put it on the mantle. Let me tell you something. But I'm going to struggle again with the order. So do we go left to right? Do
Because
we go
it
the
starts with Mike.
Okay, it starts
It's
with
like a
Mike.
snake.
That's good. And okay, then I'm going to see if I can follow
I
along.
start, and then Paul will start the next. Then you'll start the next time.
Okay.
And so on.
Here we go to kick things off. Jacoby Brissett passing yards at 182.5. 182.5 for Jacoby Brissett's passing yards. Mike?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good number, unfortunately. What the hell? I'm gonna keep the positive vibes going. I'm gonna go over on this one.
How many did he throw for last week? Did he throw for 160?
No,
125
or something.
So
like that.
asking him to throw for 180 is a
I
lot.
think he threw for 121. They had 120 passing yards as a team.
Yeah, it's like 60 more guy.
I am going to say I'm going to say over as well, because I'm going to say that Seattle will make him throw a little bit more than he did last week. So I'm going to say over.
Okay. Did my U get in? Because I was going through the snake. I went this way. I'm under. I'm under on 182.5.
You are in.
Okay, great. Okay. I don't mind it, but I just was wondering about it. Next up, Geno Smith passing TDs at 1.5. As we're looking at pregame warmups here in the pregame social, and we see Jacoby Brissett. A little bit of a haze out there, it looks like, on that camera shot. Paul, I guess you go first with Geno.
Yeah, I am going to say under on the Geno Smith touchdown passes, because largely I don't really believe in Geno Smith.
Well, there you go.
Okay. And so next to me, I'm going to go over on Geno Smith, meaning I think he's going to have 2 passing touchdowns, because I'm here to say I think it's Kenneth Walker, and I think he's going to have to go elsewhere to find some offense for the team.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt on this one. I'm going to go over. I think he's got 2 of these.
Okay. Next up, Mondre and rushing yards, 63.5. 63.5 from Ramondre Stevenson, coming off of, was he $125 last week?
Yes, sir.
$120.
$120, okay.
25 for $120.
That's you first, Matt.
Okay. I'm going to go over on that, but there will not be a repeat performance, but he's going to get at least more than 63.5.
Yeah, got to believe in Ramondre. I do think the Seahawks will put some extra attention to slowing him down, but I think he'll get over 63.5.
Okay.
I'm going to take the under because I think it's going to be a concerted effort by the Patriots coaches to limit him a little bit this week after 25 touches. Talked to Taylor Embry this week, running backs coach. I started to ask the question about his workload, and he kind of cut me off, and he was nodding, and I think that's something that they're cognizant of. I think they tried to give him a little bit of a rest on Wednesday at practice. So I think you'll see a little bit more Antonio Gibson this week.
Am I able to change my pick, or
No.
once it's in? Okay.
No, you can change your pick, obviously.
I'm going for under on that because
Okay.
here's why.
Because I made salient points.
You made salient points, and I think the weather is going to play a role in this thing from a conditioning standpoint. And I think when I hear you talk about the running backs calling that and finishing your sentence on that, I think they look at it and go, we need to get more guys involved in this. That's what that tells me. That's an excellent point by you, Paul.
Yeah.
Gray pantaloons there if anybody's watching the warm-ups here.
Oh,
That's
boy.
right, folks. They're
Yes,
back.
that's-
For everybody who'd spent all off season doing nothing but tweeting at me, gray pants, no matter what I wrote.
They're silver.
You're welcome.
Right.
Silver.
That's going to have a big factor in the game today,
And I don't
too.
think the stripes match, but that's just me.
Well, maybe their legs will be cooler, man, on this hot day, and have a little extra
Correct.
wind.
Good point by
little
Mike.
extra wind down there.
Next up on the over-unders is Hunter Henry receiving yards with 27.5.
Oh, this is it, folks. This is your Fred Kirsch lock of the week from me. I'm going to go over with Hunter Henry. I'm going to say he's got over that, and I think he's going to pick up a touchdown, too.
Okay.
I'm going to take the over as well. That's a pretty low total. I think they got to pass the ball a little bit more this week. I'm going to take the over.
Okay, I'm going to make it a clean sweep and do for the same thing. As just an aside, do people actually bet on this kind of stuff?
I hope not.
Oh, not based on our picks.
No. I'm talking about like these numbers.
Oh, these are like
This is
nuts.
nuts.
This is like the same game parlay kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
It's nuts. It's completely
These
nuts.
are straight off our post-game sponsor, post-game sponsor DraftKings website.
Which, by the way, I got that little nod going into the whole thing, Matt. Just FYI, you know. Okay, longest touchdown yards either team. So this means the longest play, and the number is 36.5.
That's a high number.
That's
very high number.
I'm going to take the under.
I smell another clean sweep, Mike.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. I'm going under with you guys. Unless it's DK Metcalf, that's the problem today.
Well,
He's the
I
one
think
that
that's
would break.
probably
it.
why it's 36.5.
But that's going to be a missed tackle.
That's the one.
He's not a speed guy.
He looked pretty fast last time we played
Not
him.
a speed guy. You ever see him run down? What's the guy from the Cardinals that he ran down? Buda Baker?
I don't know.
One of those guys?
I was still thinking of him, Dustin Stephon Gilmore last time, but yeah, I think he's okay.
Wow.
I'm under.
That was harsh by you.
Is it
Man,
weird
what's
for
going
me
on?
to say that it's weird to see them not in the all blues?
No.
I mean, like only because I'm used to seeing him in the all blues.
No, I just.
It's better. Don't get me wrong. This is better.
I like him. I just wish, like Paul said, I wish the stripes.
The stripes
were
don't
red
match.
and white, like the
Right.
stripes on the top.
Right.
They
what do
look like
say,
a youth
Paul?
football
The
team that
rub's
just
gotta
got
match the curtains,
whatever was
right?
left over, they gave them.
Yeah.
Okay, last item on the over-unders is total score, and the number is 38.5. 38.5. This is against a team that last week put up 16 points in a win. Do I kick it off on this one?
Yes, sir.
You do.
You. Big U.
Yeah, I'm a big U too on this one. I think it's a teens to teens kind of game.
That's how I feel. So I'm going to take the under as well.
And our behind enemy lines guest, John Boyle from Seahawks.com. Also, I thought, interestingly enough, sees this as a little bit of a tractor pull as well, right?
How novel. We haven't watched those games the last couple of years.
Right.
Not because that guy's playing right there. Marcus Jones recovered a fumble last week. I thought he looked pretty good in training camp. He's just got some speed. It's just nice to see these guys get out there and bring that plus athleticism that I think the team has just been, too desperate for it lately, and now you've got him, you've got Gonzalez, you've got Drake May. You're starting to see, just some really next-level athletic type guys here on the field, and that's what they need.
Wow. Okay, I'm sifting through the electronic mail at webradio@patriots.com, and I'm trying to see if there's anything here that catches my eye. There doesn't off the top of my head.
David Andrews making the rounds pregame.
So handing out the high fives.
Yeah. Did I see? I'm blanking on the Super Bowl that we're honoring today. I mean,
Super Bowl 49.
Mike, when you've been part of so many Super Bowl runs, sometimes you forget which one.
Your rings get stuck in your ears, and you
which
just
one is
forget
which. Which one was the one that they won in Seattle?
49.
49. 49.
Yep.
Some of those members out on the field in pregame?
Yeah, quite a few members actually.
Okay.
Of that team.
Did I just see David Andrews dapping up Billy Yates?
Oh, I did.
Maybe a little while ago. Who was not part of that team, but was part of the.
It might be a little early
staff.
for those people being on there, but
All right, maybe not. Maybe I saw something
different. There was a
different.
very, very nice reception hosted by Robert and Jonathan Kraft last night, welcoming people back, and Marcus Cannon was there, looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Nate Solder.
Nate Solder is one of the nicest men that's been in that locker room.
Great. So you had some real offensive
there's Martine
talent there with Solder, Josh Klein, who doesn't even look like an offensive lineman anymore. I mentioned
I wouldn't
Dan
have
Connolly.
known what he looked like when he was here.
Marcus Cannon and Seabass. Seabass is doing the game.
Seabass looks tremendous. We see him all the time.
Great,
Seabass likes to mock me when I'm in the Bob's Discount Furniture Studios and he's yelling in German in an adjacent studio.
I'd say though too, just real quick, like if we could reflect a moment on that 49. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I think it's my favorite of the 6 Super Bowl wins. My favorite game. Just it meant to me, like after 10 years of getting so close and falling short, and it looked like it was going to head that way again with the crazy pass there at the end of the game. They're on the goal line, and you felt like, oh my God, it's all happening again. Like we can't get over this hump ever since 2004, and then Malcolm Butler's big interception. But to me. That game, 2 titans of the NFL. You were down in a hole. You had to claw your way out of it. You had to play perfect down the end. Vintage Brady, Julian Edelman, crazy catches. I mean, Gronk, Amendola, all those guys coming through. It was just an awesome game, my favorite.
Pshaw, I'm going to say, Paul, to that. Pshaw. How can it ever be any better than your first one when they beat the Rams? But I will say, Mike, after that one, that was the best game. I mean, that was a heavyweight bout. There were heavyweight blows being tossed by both teams, haymakers on both sides of the ball, and with all the flukes, the up and downs and everything like that, it was incredibly memorable and a great football game.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. That's my my number one at the top of the list. Now, if you want to talk from an emotional standpoint, like the first one, I get Matt's point.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But in terms of the game, it was 2 great teams playing at their best.
Yes.
As opposed to one team taking the game off and the other team being the plucky underdog that I thought the Patriots really controlled 3.5 quarters of the first game. And just because the other team was so much more talented, they found a way to hang around and stay in it and almost steal it at the end. But Seattle and the Patriots were just 2 heavyweights in their prime, just slugging it out. It was like Rocky and Apollo at the end of Rocky 2, just like,
ain't gonna be no rematch.
Just hammering away at each other.
Go the distance.
Can win, and they did win.
Matt, where were you for 36 for the first Super Bowl? You weren't here yet, were you?
I wasn't here. I was at Channel 5 here in
Boston,
and I believe if the back of the Superdome wasn't up against the wall of the Superdome wasn't up against my back, I could see it from where I was.
Somewhere down there, there's a game going on.
Me too. I was in the auxiliary press box. I was pretty high up.
Yeah.
Well, that's why for me, the first one, I was a Patriots fan growing up, and it was, shocking, and it's, the classic underdog story. But I would say 49 was, I got into this crazy blogger mode, and now it's like I'm heavily invested in this team. I know all these players. I've just been focusing so much since 2006 season. That's when I really got in deep. That one for me was just so gratifying to finally get. And the sad part was I was out in California, and I'm sitting with my in-laws, and I had no one to celebrate with, so I missed all my Patriot fans.
And Mike, you told a little story, an embarrassment of riches in my short, pathetic career here, but on the field, behind the bench for the Super Bowl 49, And I have to give a shout-out to ace camera person Sam Patton, who, as everything's going down the tubes, is focused on Tom Brady on the sideline, and only Tom Brady. And when Butler picks the ball off, that magical shot of Brady jumping up and down.
Ignoring Jimmy Garoppolo? That was Sam's shot?
Yeah.
That's I never knew that. See, I learned something.
A great
I've
story.
been here for 25 years, and I still learn something every year.
Yeah, and it's such a great shot. And he had the wherewithal to sit there and go, here's the spot. Let's be on the guy who everybody's talking about. And it's just a phenomenal shot that he has.
It really is.
How crazy to go, though, from Sam, probably thinking he's about to get the shot of Tom Brady's heart tearing in half for the third straight Super Bowl, losing, at the end on a terrible play, but instead to get the complete opposite, and to see him going from we're about to lose this game to holy crap, we just pulled out a miracle. I mean, what a shot. Nice job, Sam.
Yeah.
Between that shot and the shot after the overtime touchdown in Kansas City in the 18 AFC Championship, that was as elated as I've seen Tom Brady. And even going back to the first one when he has that sort of incredulous look, I can't believe we just did that. The genuine excitement, probably because of the way you guys just said it, like the despair to the excitement of winning.
One of the all-time classics, webradio at patriots.com. Here's an interesting, and nobody's really been talking about this, which is so I'll pull this one up. This is from Brendan in Edmonton. Do you think this team misses Kendrick Bourne? And I would emphatically say yes. Can Brissett get him the ball when he ever gets back?
I was born. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, through one game. I mean, certainly the passing game hasn't blown doors off yet. But I think Kendrick Bourne's a good piece, and I think at some point you'll welcome him back into the mix, and he'll bring a little bit of that run after catch ability that I think is really valuable. He's got good gear when he catches the ball, and it seems to be able to accelerate. We saw, like we said, he was on pace, I think, for 85 catches last year before he got hurt. So he was having a real good season despite the struggles of the offense last year. So I always, it's hard to not have these guys in training camp, but it's always kind of a nice boost when you get those PUP guys back in the middle of the season. Notice this week Cole Strange working out a little bit more up in the upper field. So how are these guys going to fit in? Hard to tell, but it's just nice to get some reinforcements, especially if some injuries do strike over the next couple of weeks.
We're watching pregame warmups as the players are going through the paces of getting ready for the game. We don't control the cameras like we do when the team is on the road, but just saw a shot a couple of seconds ago of Jabril Peppers with the Guardian hat and embracing that.
Yep.
And
talked to him
if
on Friday
ever
about
if there
it.
was a player that should be wearing the Guardian hat, I think it should be Jabril Peppers.
I mean, it's I give him a lot of credit for doing it because, I think they do kind of look a little silly, jarring. I don't want to say silly, but they look a little jarring at first, but
You're going to take this to the extreme of, I'm going to give him credit for wearing a Guardian cap. His just love and affection for Peppers knows no bounds.
I would say this, though. He's a guy who plays on the edge, and he's tough, and he's a tough guy. And, usually those guys, they don't want to wear something like that. They don't want to come off as somebody who's concerned about safety. They want to come off as the guy who's willing to light everybody up. And, so I just think it's he set an example. He said he didn't really notice much of a difference. He said the hardest thing was that it's hot because it covers up the holes in your helmet.
I thought that was the funniest thing is for someone who is going out of, obviously he's in a small minority. There's not a lot of players wearing them.
Yeah.
So it's something that he felt strongly about to wear it. And then he said, the only way, I might not wear it because it might be too hot. And I was just like, what? Like you're going out of your way to do something that most people aren't. And if it's too hot, you're not going to do it. It just was odd
he was looking forward in the winter. I did have a little bit of a funny, though. We talked to him in the locker room on Friday, and he came up to his locker, and he had a funny haha, I think.
The way you tell a story.
He had on a winter cap, but he also, I think, had just come out of the TV meeting. So he had the winter cap, Patriots winter cap on, with a Fox News hat or a Fox Sports hat just sitting on top of his hat. And so he's walking his locker room. So I said, "Is that the Guardian cap for the locker room?" And he chuckled at that.
So thanks, Mike.
Not as much as Glenn.
I heart you too, Mike.
But a little bit funny, but always willing to talk. Peppers and came off the injury report yesterday. Intense dude, seems ready to go.
Can I do an aside that has nothing to do with the Patriots at all?
Sure.
But related to the Guardian cap and whatnot. Everybody saw what happened Thursday night, with Tua, and I'm a little annoyed. And I'm annoyed because I don't think something as serious as a guy's career should be necessarily open for just widespread debate around the league. To the point where even another team's head coach, Antonio Pierce, with the Raiders is weighing in. Like, I think you should retire. Who are you? This decision is Tua's and his family and his obviously the medical people. You know, like if the Dolphins, like neurologists and whatnot, come out and they say, you know what, we would advise you to retire, that makes perfect sense to me. Antonio Pierce advising him to retire should be fined. That should be a fine.
Right. Florio's asking for it. Is this tampering?
I'm really well, I didn't know that, but I think it should be a fine. I think it's just so highly inappropriate.
Yes. And
the amount of people that think it's okay to just tell a guy what he should and shouldn't do, I think is ridiculous. Like, listen, we can all watch it and sit there and have empathy for a guy who has obviously had 2 very high-profile concussions. He's had 3 as an NFL player, but 2 of them where he had the fencing position that everybody talks about now. Oh, not so coincidentally, those both happened on Thursday Night Football, by the way. It's almost like it's probably not all that safe to play a football game 4 days after you played another one. Just saying. But I think it's wrong that people think it's okay to tell a guy what he should and shouldn't do.
And maybe to advance this a little bit, Mike, you're the information guy, and I don't know if you caught this as well, but I think on one of the Sunday Splash shows that they try to do, there was some information, it might have been Rappaport, I'm not sure.
It was Rappaport.
That says all the information that people are hearing is he's intending to get back and play and going to follow the doctor's orders and do whatever is necessary. But at least the preliminary reports that are being talked about are that he's still intent on playing.
Yeah. He has no plans to retire, evidently.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, Pepper's talked about it. I mean, one thing you can say is, I mean, he can't slide head first. I mean, you know, diving like that aggressively, that was, you know, Pepper's thing. Anytime you lower your head, you're putting yourself in a danger spot. So,
I wish he did dive.
Yeah.
He didn't dive.
Right.
He put his
He
shoulder
just kinda,
down
like, went
trying to
down.
get, because it was right at the first down mark if he slid. Now, obviously, when you look at a game that they lost 31-10, and you start to say to yourself, would it have been better if he just slid? Because he wouldn't have gotten the first down. Because if he started that slide, it probably would have been before the first down. But then now you look at what happened, and you're like, well, was that worth it? You got the first down, but now who knows when you're going to play again? You know. So I get that, but I just think it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth to listen to the amount of media people.
The speculation.
That not even speculation, but like
here's what should happen.
Finger wagging.
Right.
You know, like. He should never play again.
Right.
Like, well, who are you to make that decision?
Yeah. Exactly.
you know what I just don't get is, like, how do the Bills kick the Dolphins' ass like this every time? Like, I don't get it. Like, I thought maybe at some point it was going to turn. The Patriots have always struggled down. The Patriots, like, even with Tom Brady, like, there were games where we're like, what is going on down there? Yet somehow the Bills can go down there on a short week.
It's almost like the window's not closed, Mike.
Right.
and just absolutely blow doors again. You know, and all, like, I've never seen Tua look like that against the Patriots for some reason.
Well,
like, Tua is always just chucking it around the yard against the Patriots.
Yeah, 2 of the picks were definitely on the receivers. One of them hit the receiver in the hands, and the other one was clearly a guy that wasn't where he was supposed to be. The pick 6 in the second half I didn't see, so I don't know what happened.
You're looking at pregame warm-ups on the field right now. Jacoby Brissett, particular, in warming up, and moments ago we saw some of Marcus Jones, which leads us to this email from Nick in Illinois. As always, great show so far, guys. Seeing Marcus Jones made me think about the new kickoff with all the touchbacks week 1. Do you guys see the league adjusting in the near future? Thank you very much, from Nick. And I don't. I see the adjustment being banging out of the end zone, and let's give him the extra 5 and let's defend.
Yeah. It seemed like it's settled into basically exactly what it's kind of been. Like, it's an extra 4 yards a kick return.
I think, and that counts, by the way, a touchdown. Like very slight. It did, and one of them was running.
Yep.
The Cardinals actually got blown out of that game, but that extra point gave them 8 free points because they went for 2 after that. But the one adjustment that I could potentially see is once these teams get comfortable with how they're covering it, they're going to watch even the touchbacks.
Correct.
And I think they might start popping them high and trying to get greedy, because I don't think this is a good way to return. I don't think this is anything that's going to result in it
opening up.
I don't think it opens things up. I think it probably is going to lead to teams getting stuck inside their 20, because I just think it's really hard to block those guys in such a small amount of space. There's no creases necessarily, but we'll see. Maybe the Cardinals one will lead to more returns this week, and people, maybe they'll hit them the way that I think it was DJ Dallas. Was that who ran it back?
I'm not sure.
I think
Not
that's
sure.
for the
Not sure.
for the
Sorry about
Cardinals. I guess I'm the only one who watches the league. But you know, what are you going to do?
Webradio at Patriots.com. Hello, friends. This is from Travis in West Virginia. Do you think it's possible that Damar Hamlin was wearing some sort of protective vest to protect his heart, and that created a harder impact for Tua?
No.
I'm going to say no to that, right?
Damar's okay.
Okay. This from Nicodia in West Virginia. I'd like to give some positivity to the offense. I know they only scored 16 points and 1 for 4 in the red zone. Can we give them credit for making it into the red zone 4 times in the last couple of years?
Not when they took over in the red zone on
Right.
one of them.
Okay. Yeah, I think
went
that's
4 and
I
out.
think that's asking too much as far as that is concerned.
No,
Yeah, I mean, if they had 400 yards and just couldn't finish drives, then I would say, hey, this week 1, they couldn't finish the drives. They didn't move the ball all day.
Right.
They had one really good drive. The second drive of the game, they went 80 yards for a touchdown.
Yep.
You
And
know,
that was it.
And really, they had a couple of other drives that were good enough. The field goal drive.
Field goal drive,
I think they went like 50 yards or 60
Converted a
yards off
third
of one of the
down.
field.
Yeah.
Converted a couple of third downs, and obviously, to me, the money drive was the last one where you were able to grind out a couple of first downs and make sure the other team doesn't get the ball back.
Yeah, Ramondre.
Okay, do you guys want to do the Sunday six-pack?
Sure.
All right, Matt?
This is the Sunday six-pack, so kick back and listen to my position. I'm itching to get the picks back. You better bring a big stack. Get it mixed, Jack. I came to win it, yeah, this is the Sunday six-pack.
I'll ask this question again. I am repeating myself, but I'm just wanted to make sure. Do we care about the records in this one as well? Is that important?
It's always important.
It's always important.
If you're keeping score?
Are you keeping score?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Means something to me. Means something to you.
I go to the Larry Bird School. If they're keeping score, it matters.
I guess last week,
Not
in the
good
games,
for anybody.
Everybody was a game under 500 at 2 and 3 and 1.
We gotta change that graphic. Look at that, Matt. You're getting
Oh,
hardy. You're getting hardy right there.
What are we doing?
Oh no!
I get it. It's a tough person to replace.
Was that
I
on
get it.
purpose? Was that on purpose? Because if it is, I like it.
I do
That's
too.
a good troll job.
Let's keep that up the rest of the year. I
Tough
love it.
one, Hardy.
I love it.
Tough
All right,
performance there,
so
buddy.
let's go around the league a little bit. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to look out before the Patriots game, and we start down in Nashville, where the high expectation New York Jets are looking for their first win against a Tennessee Titan team that completely threw up over themselves and lost last week. The Jets are favored by 3.5.
Yeah, it was when John Boyle was talking about going to joint practices in Tennessee. I feel like it's a rite of passage now. Like you got, if your team goes to joint practices in Tennessee, or your media contingent goes to, you now are ready for the season because it's just so bloody hot there.
And you have to do karaoke.
You have to do karaoke.
Okay.
Hit Broadway. Do all the fun sites. But I don't think the Jets hit Broadway last night. I think they're focused and ready for their game today. I'm going to take the Jets. And I'll lay
Yeah, I think the Jets bounce back in a big way. I am a believer in the team, and I think that they will resemble what people kind of were expecting a little bit more. I think, allowing 400 yards and like 260 or whatever it was on the ground was an aberration, unless it wasn't. But I'm going to take the Jets.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think, and specifically with you, Paul, I think this is a savage mismatch on the board. I like the Jets. I think the Jets are going to make a statement today in Tennessee. Game number 2, and speaking of statements and speaking of a team getting right, the 0-1 Vegas Raiders are going to Baltimore to take on the Ravens, who are a toenail away from beating the defending champions. And and the Ravens are a little bit well rested. This also could be a real ugly one, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of points that I don't like to necessarily lay more than a score to the Ravens because I don't think they like to play that way. But I'm going to do it in this case because I think the Raiders just aren't very good. So I'm going to take the Ravens to cover.
Right, but they've got Antonio Pierce, tough ex-player to coach them.
Well, they like him, so there's that.
Right,
smoke cigars.
Right. Am I next?
Yes.
Ravens big.
Yeah, I think Ravens. The Raiders are dealing with a West Coast trip, right? 1 a.m. That's just tough to deal with, right?
Okay, our next game on the slate, the 1-0 New Orleans Saints, who beat the bag out of Carolina last week, go to Dallas and take on the Cowboys, who are a touchdown favorite. Tom Brady's announcing this game. I know everybody wants to know every one of his movements and everything like that. He will be in the booth for the Saints-Dallas game. Paul, you're first.
I think you're first.
Okay, Dallas big. Dallas will cover that.
Yeah, I think the Panthers stink, so it's hard to read a lot into that Saints game. But I'm going to take Dallas 2 at home. I'll lay the points.
Yeah, this is one of those weeks that Dallas generally pukes on itself. You know, they go out and they get a nice, easy win on the road against a playoff team from a year ago, and they wouldn't be ready to go. But I just think the defense is too good. I'm going to lay the 6 points. I'll take Dallas.
Okay, and next to last on the list, the 1-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at Detroit to take on Paul's favorite team, the Detroit Lions. Who starts?
That would be Mike.
That would be me. I think this is a close one. I do think Detroit will pull it out, but I think it's going to be close. I just think Tampa's got some good players. I would take Tampa plus 7.5.
Okay.
I'm going to take Tampa as well. I'm going to take the hook. I think the Lions win the game, but I think a backdoor cover is in order. Baker Mayfield is able to put enough points on the board to stay within a touchdown.
3 for 3. I like Tampa to keep it a game, but Paul's favorites to win. Anybody hear the line the other day on one of the 70,000 shows that Belichick's on where Belichick goes, I love Baker Mayfield, you know?
Yep.
Mayfield's playing well. He'll keep him in the game. And on Sunday Night Football tonight, the 1-0, thank you, Tennessee, Chicago Bears, go to another one of Paul's darlings, the Houston Texans, the Super Bowl favorite, Houston Texans, where Houston is a 6.5-point favorite. Am I first?
I am first. I will take the Texans.
Your favorites, of course.
I don't know why they're my favorites.
Strong.
I actually picked
Hall of Famer.
I actually picked Jacksonville to win that division. I'm not sure why Houston has become my favorite, but I'll wear it. The Texans, I think, will get the win in cover.
If I'm second, I agree. I don't think Chicago's very good. I think they showed that last week, and I like Houston in that game. Mike?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Houston rolls.
Which leads us to why we're here. Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, where the Patriots and their home opener take on the Seattle Seahawks. Where Seattle and Matt Morrell, did the spread go up a little bit? I saw anywhere from 3 to 3.5, depending on where you're shopping. 4-point spread. That's a little more than I would have thought.
It came straight from DraftKings, our sponsor of the postgame show.
It seems like a little higher than it might have been maybe earlier in the week, even though I don't follow that, Paul.
Well, it was 3.5.
Currently
on Thursday.
3.5.
Okay.
It was 3.5 on Thursday. So 4, it seems in line. Seems like people like Seattle.
Okay. And who's
you?
Okay. I don't feel great about it, but I like New England with the points.
That's how I feel, man. I don't feel great about it. I think if the Patriots do drop this game, I feel my prediction, what we're talking about, is they just couldn't get to Geno Smith. And Geno Smith had enough time to find Lockett, to get it down to Metcalf. They are able to pass the ball, score some points quick. Patriots getting a hole, hard to catch up. That's the formula I see. But I think if the Patriots, like I said, get to a fast start, they don't kill themselves with a ton of mistakes. They're able to overcome the couple mistakes maybe they do make, able to close out at the end. I like the Patriots. But the +4 for me is where it's at now.
Yeah, I'm a homer, so I'm going to take the Patriots. Contractually obligated to do so, as Fred tells me time and time again. I just think these kinds of games, I think, sort of favor the way they want to play. If Geno Smith does what John Boyle said, and he's able to spread the ball around, I think he has the weapons to hurt the Patriots defense. And if he's able to avoid the mistakes, then I don't like the Patriots' chances. I don't expect that to happen. I think it's going to be similar to last week in that the other team is going to make some mistakes and the Patriots win 16-13.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul. And that wraps up our Sunday six-pack. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. I would refrain about drinking a six-pack, but that was just a little responsible driving tip by me.
Well, if you're going to drive, I'd refrain from even having the first one.
Correct. All right, back to webradio at patriots.com. Are we seriously talking about the heat when it's only 77 degrees out? Clearly this team won't stand a chance in Miami. Soft, says Tim from Boston. I mean, again, I was saying this to John Boyle when he was here. This is a little bit of more nonsense. These are the abstract things that I think most coaches hate. Who cares if it's hot? Who cares if it's cold? Who cares if it's windy? Who cares if it's rainy? It's for both teams. I'm just telling you, I think it's going to have – there will be a bit of a factor. Weather will play a role in this game, a little bit. I'm not telling you it's a whole thing, but I think it will play a factor in the game. And I don't think it is anything to do about which team is soft or not. I do think conditioning will play a role today.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think early season, you're always a little bit of that at the end of the game. What team has some gas left, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see
I don't know about conditioning because I don't know what kind of condition Seattle's in.
Correct.
I kind of agree with the email. Like, this is not 95 and humid in Miami. I think it's a beautiful day here, and I don't.
Beaches are open.
The beaches were open, and we're going to have our best year. It's the 4th of July.
All right.
Actually, Matt, if you don't mind, real quick, I just wanted to share Gerard Mayo on the radio pregame 98.5, the Sports Hub.
With Zoe.
Said regarding Chuck's Okorafor, I called him and it had everything to do with the man. I wanted to make sure that he was good in a good space and really considering and taking into consideration that this is what he wanted to do. It said nothing to do with football is what Mayo had to say.
All right. So I like the fact that he clears that up a little bit. And, Paul, I'll say this. Here's one thing where Gerard has really been consistent about that early on. I'm not telling you that somebody didn't or not, but I think it's very important for Gerard to let people know that he wants to deal with these people as human beings first before football players.
Yeah, I'm not sure we got any information there, though. Like, he called him. I mean, like, wouldn't a coach want to find out why a guy has left the team?
I think that there's a school of thought out there that Chooks has left the team high and dry, and because of this, they can't count on him anymore, and more of a hard A, kind of a old school kind of way, like, all right, he's gone, move on, who's next man up, and everything like that. Where I think Gerard is trying to say, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's deal with, if there's a human element here, I want to know what that is first before we get into, can a guy who I'm counting on to provide tackle depth play or not play?
Oh, you're talking about in terms of why he did this.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I'm not sure that I don't know. I guess you'd have to find out why.
Messaging. I like the messaging. That's all.
Yeah, I don't really think. Well, okay.
All right, back to the electronic mail, webradio at patriots.com. This is Dexter from Santa Rosa. If you had to choose one, which would you rather have to build momentum for the season? A, Keon White has 2.5 more sacks this game. B, one of the young wide receivers, Tyquan Baker-Polk, has a solid game to get the fans excited about, 6 for 80 and a touchdown. I know which one Mike will choose. Thank you, and go Pats.
I would probably choose B. Thank you very much. No, just because we've seen a little, like, we have some excitement about White right now, even if he doesn't put 2.5 sacks up tonight. I think everybody's still feeling positive about him and the impact he's going to make on the offense. But show me something I haven't seen yet. I mean, to see Polk come out here and have, 6-7 catches, something like that. Tyquan Thornton getting down deep, making some big plays, stretching the field a little bit. Those kind of new elements that we haven't really seen out of them yet. Those to me would be the most encouraging progress on things you haven't seen yet, rather than doubling down on Keon White gets 2.5 sacks. Unless Keon White is just blowing through guys and doing it all by himself, then you really might be talking about something special with him.
Yeah, I would agree with Mike. I think the better sign would be something you haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Obviously it'd be great to see Keon White duplicate it, but he did it last week. I'd like to see one of those young wide receivers show that he can do it too. Now you have two elements of your team that look like they have some promise, in terms of young guys.
Do you think Baker plays today? Last
No.
week? Yeah.
Neither do I.
Not unless they fall behind and it becomes like a multiple receiver game. Yeah. Like if it's a similar game as last week and they want to run the ball, they're not going to be like 4 and 5 wide a lot.
Yeah. I do wonder just if he had a good week of practice. If he did some stuff to earn this chance, because
I'll tell you what, it makes me wonder, and you guys will both make fun of me because you guys know I always go down these roads. It leads me to believe he got suspended last week.
Yeah, I figured that's what you said.
Well, I would
Right.
maybe take a little bit more measured approach and
But-
say this is an immature kid, okay? They think there's some talent that they can untap in this thing. Let's let them see what it's like to dress on game day. See what it's like to be part of an NFL team. Pump the brakes on what your expectations are for him. I don't think he's going to see a lot of action, but maybe he understands and maybe something will rub off on him. This is how I have to act, prepare, do all the things that are necessary to get ready, and maybe there's something that can help him down the road.
I would just say that, I thought consistently through camp, both Rager and Booty were ahead of him, especially as like an outside receiver. So
and Booty getting one of the practice players last week, I think also added to that. Now it'll be interesting to see if Baker is one of the practice, to your point. If he had a strong week of practice.
Right.
I can't imagine, unless the game unfolds in an entirely different way, that you're going to need your 4th and 5th receivers.
About 24 minutes till kickoff, and the emailer brought up a couple of words that I just would like to expand upon here. And those are the words fans excited. We talked a little bit about this in the post-game show last week. Home opener, Beautiful day, great weather, great opportunity to come out and see the new look New England Patriots. What do you expect to see and hear from a reaction standpoint today?
I hope the fans bring it today. I mean, there's some excitement. I mean, Dietrich Wise talked to him in the locker room on Friday. He said, you can kind of feel the excitement right now a little bit around town, around the team. And, I mean, let's face it, it's been a little while since you felt that excitement. Maybe last year for, Brady Day and the Eagles week 1, there's, always something to get excited about, like for the home opener. So hopefully the fans bring it. I mean, Seattle, their environment is awesome. So I hope the Patriots fans can kind of, take a page from what the Seahawks do day in and day out at their stadium out there in Seattle, and really make life tough on these guys. I mean, you don't know how long this season's going to really be like this, where you feel like you've got some hopes and positivity. You don't know where things are going to go, and I think that's when you got to bring it. You got to make it feel like a home opener for the Patriots.
Well, there's so much new here, as far as the new regime and a new era and new players, new coaching staff and everything like that. I'd like to see the fans embrace that and say, let's make Gillette Stadium a tough place to play for opponent teams. I don't think that's been the case, and I think fans have been spoiled here for a while with all the success that they had. I'd like to see maybe a new era of fans maybe being ushered in, and let's get behind this young team. They need some support on this, and let's make it a tough place to play so opponents just don't come in here and, don't need to worry about silent snap counts and any of the other things.
Yeah, I mean, Kieran Gregan wrote today about their struggles at home the last few seasons. You got to go back to 2020, the last time they had a winning record here at home. They were shut out twice last year here. They only scored 3 points once. It hasn't been a great place for them. So coming out here, playing well, the fans feeding off of that energy from the players, I think that'd be just a great sign to kind of continue to progress and redefine this new generation of the Patriots.
Paul, is that more nonsense talk, me dealing with abstracts and things like that rather than blocking and tackling and the things that are really important?
No, I think those things I think those things would be important. I just don't think this has ever been a tough place to play in terms of the atmosphere. I think it's been a tough place to play because the Patriots have been vastly superior talent-wise than the other team.
Yep.
But I don't think it's been an overly hostile environment for the most part. There have been occasions
pockets
where that's happened, and it's individual games where the crowd sort of there's been some playoff games that the press box has been shaking.
Right. Baltimore 14.
But they don't really happen on a consistent basis. We, we used to do the paper, the Patriots Football Weekly. We had a big cover story during the bye week and we had it was called The Silence of the Fans. The Fans, sorry.
Thank you.
And it was all about how it just never seemed to be a very difficult environment to play in here in Foxborough, and that was the old stadium. It's been the same with the new stadium. So, yeah, I think that would be something to strive for. I'm just not really expecting it. Now today, there should be a lot of enthusiasm. It's the home opener. It's a new coach. You're coming off a spirited win on the road that most people didn't expect. So yeah, you should be ready to go today.
Do you expect something at least out of the chute that they're going to be into it?
I think as long as they play well, they'll be into it.
Okay.
They fall behind, and people are going to be as cranky as they always are.
We want May.
Right? And if they fall behind, people are going to be cranky.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, I didn't say this, and it's as obvious as the nose on your face, but, when you talk about keys to the game, getting the fans into it, keeping the fans excited, a good start is always a very, that's not a bad place to start. So if they can make a play here, do something, get on the scoreboard, play from ahead, which I think every team wants to be able to do, all of those will be factors in a positive result by the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that, especially for the way this team needs to play, it's been a while since they've been able to win anyway, right? In the heyday, they could do anything they wanted. You want to run, you want to throw, you want to play defense, you want to fall behind, you want to play, you want to play with the lead, you want to, make it a special teams game, a weather game. They could beat you any way you wanted. They'd beat the bag out of you. They can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I think the start is really more important than it ever was.
It's the biggest thing to me, Paul. It's like, and I don't, want to tie this all together, but it's that to me last week, as different as it was to win, that's still the formula that we've watched the last 3 seasons post Brady. Get the lead, don't turn it over. I mean, it's just they executed it flawlessly, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. But everybody who watches this game long enough knows that that's just really hard to do every week. The other teams are too good. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have turnovers. You're going to have a 3rd and 12 that you have to convert to get the win. And those are the kind of things that have just hamstrung the Patriots since they haven't had those elite talent level players. So Want to see something new. Want to see a new way to win. That will be ideal to really make you feel like this team is going to have something different this year rather than just got to play perfectly, and if we do that, we'll have a chance at the end.
Play from ahead, play with the lead. It really does sound so simple in theory, but it isn't the easiest thing to always pull off.
Play from ahead, play with the lead. Bud Light, the official drink sponsor, the official beer sponsor.
Easy to get the lead, easy to run out the clock.
All right, well, in about 17 minutes or so, the Patriots will kick off their home opener against the Seattle Seahawks. Malcolm Butler will be featured in the pregame ceremonies. Members from the Super Bowl 49 winning team will be featured at halftime of today's game. A lot of good vibes, a lot of things to look forward to. Beautiful weather. Tune in and watch the game. We'll be back later after the game to wrap things up with a post-game show. Enjoy the game, everybody.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.